Talk a lot about that game, certainly, throughout the day today. We'll hang out with Matt Derrick coming up at 11 o'clock. Chiefs Digest. We will talk with him about what he sees from this Chiefs team and what he expects to see on Sunday with any takeaways, bigger, smaller, from the Colts' loss. We'll hang out with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Kendall Gammon presented by Freeman Health System and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. And get his thoughts on the loss to the Colts, but looking ahead to the Bucs and maybe being in a locker room where it's all about accountability, and you better look interior first. Better look inside before you start pointing fingers at somebody else and take an honest assessment and a real assessment when you watch the film of what you were doing. Travis Kelce talks about that all the time, and Patrick Mahomes, and certainly Andy Reid. They discuss that about how when you're watching film after a game, it's self-assessment and being real and honest with yourself as to what you did. And I think there's a lot of hard truths to watch in the film from the Colts game. So hopefully that inspires a response from this Chiefs team, and maybe Shaq Barrett helped the inspiration to a response for this Chiefs team against the Bucs. So we'll talk with Kendall Gammon about that, and certainly special teams issues that are there and what he saw and what he's used to and played in. And, you know, that phase of the team was so bad that you can make a case that it cost the Chiefs the game. You can make a case the offense cost the Chiefs the game. You can make a case that Chris Jones and the absurd penalty cost the Chiefs the game. A lot of things you can make a case for if you have them stand alone and just look at them in a vacuum. Then you could say that that was the reason, but it is in totality, all of those things adding up. So Kendall Gammon, will talk with him coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer will hang out with him before he heads east to Tampa tomorrow for a little Sunday night football on 41 with Chiefs and Bucs. And then we'll hear from the Chiefs today, Andy Reid and TBD at the podium today on this Friday at 1 o'clock, and we'll wrap up with the cuts as well. Starting to develop a feel, maybe. I don't know. Still don't really have one, but starting to develop a feel for the Chiefs and Bucs. But we'll get into that as the show progresses. 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. So we start off with what has been the main topic since last night, and that is Tua being carted off in the second quarter, going straight to the hospital. He was discharged from the hospital. He flew home with the Miami Dolphins from Cincinnati. He did suffer a concussion. They diagnosed that, and Mike McDaniel saying after the game that, yes, he did have a concussion. He was woozy. He was not necessarily, I don't remember the term that he used, but he wasn't all there. Confused. He had some confusion on the field when they were talking with them, so obvious signs, the fencing response, obvious signs of concussion and head trauma. That took place last night. It was a scary sight to see when you see that take place, and you know that that person has been rendered unconscious, and the fencing response where the arms go stiff like that, it is really, really scary. And I don't think there was a soul watching the game that didn't immediately connect Sunday to last night. You can't, unless you're the halftime crew of Thursday Night Football's Amazon broadcast. They talked a lot about that. Not once did they mention Sunday and Tua being woozy, stumbling when he got up, having, needing his offensive lineman to catch him when he starts to fall. And by the way, when he fell and had the whiplash with his head, he immediately grabbed his head with his hands, shook his head, as you would see some players do when they, have a head injury. That's one of the outward signs. He had all the signs of what you would say, boy, that guy suffered some head trauma. Maybe it isn't diagnosed specifically as a concussion, but the man suffered some head trauma on that fall. It was not a back and ankle. Maybe that was a part of it, but you don't immediately grab your head and then shake your head and wobble when it's, your back or your ankle. And there's a reason why the concussion protocol has continued to be more and more strict when there are outward signs with a gross motor instability that is an immediate no-go. It's an immediate, you don't return to play. So somehow they took the gross motor instability in the game on Sunday and changed it into, well, actually, he was wobbling and he fell because of a back and an ankle. There are independent neurologists, there are independent doctors, there's the team doctor, there's the player, there's a lot of different people that go into the return to play policy and the protocol. The NFLPA is doing their investigation. They're now going to have, last night as part of the investigation as well. But it's scary because we know we've got so much more information throughout the years. We don't know everything. Certainly a lot more information we'll learn over the next 10, 20, 30 years. But this much we know, in that a head injury is the same as other injuries on your body. Harrison Butker sprains his ankle. As he's recovering, it makes it more likely that he can re-injure that ankle until it's fully healed. If he goes out there and kicks, one, he will be suffering from the pain of the injury, but also if he steps wrong, that foot is more unstable than it typically would be without that injury. It's the same thing with the head injury. Until you are fully recovered from the concussion or from the trauma, you are more susceptible to what would have been maybe a smaller hit that wouldn't have resulted in a concussion or trauma, but because you are healing from the previous one, means it might be easier. I don't know if that was last night. I don't know if Sunday doesn't happen and he falls on the turf the exact same way, if he's, has the reaction that he does. Nobody knows that. Nobody will ever know if that's the case. The investigation will be done. We'll see if the protocols were passed. We'll see if he, did stumble because of some sort of back and ankle injury there. But the protocols are there for any outward signs of gross motor instability, and I'm not sure how you would have the return to play. We talked about it earlier this week. I mean, it wasn't just now let's go ahead and connect it. You and I had a conversation about, how is that a back? We're not doctors, but I don't know that I've seen a player be that wobbly and almost fall and go back in the game before. Maybe I have. Maybe it's happened before, and I just haven't read about it, and it
it's really the quarterback also. I mean, the quarterback doesn't do that very often. This is a very high profile player, also in the only game on your screen last night, and that stuff does matter.
Yeah.
And so at this point, now that, like you said, Tua was discharged and traveled home with the team, and Beards saw a report earlier that he was at home and in good spirits, something along those lines. With that being said, I think the best case scenario here is that being step one, obviously, and then step two being this actually impacting how the NFL handles head trauma from here on out, because I want to be very careful about saying, oh, obviously that was a concussion the first time. It had every on-screen visible sign of a concussion.
It's a good way to put it.
I can say that pretty confidently. He had to go through some sort of protocols, and either he passed them shockingly, or he was not put through strenuous enough protocols. Whatever that process was that got him back out on the field, whatever that process was, and then however the Dolphins got him back out again for the game last night, something broke down there in terms of protecting your players. We don't know if it was a doctor that wasn't as impartial as they were supposed to be. We don't know if it was Tua talking his way back onto the field. We don't know if it was Mike McDaniel saying, get out there, champ, you've got this. We don't know what the cause was, but I think we can say pretty confidently that with that hit last night, something needs to change somewhere in the process. I hope we find out where that process failed. And I almost said where it failed Tua. Again, he could have been at the forefront of trying to get himself back out on the field. We'll hear later on a story in a different realm that touches on some similar stuff. There was I can't remember who it was. I'll go grab the tweet. There was a former Patriot player who last night tweeted his story of being protected by a staff that stepped in on his behalf when he wasn't going to protect himself. It was Rich Ornberger. He tweeted last night, very thankful today for the Patriots trainers and medical staff for the way they handled my concussion in 2011. I was out on my feet. They took it seriously. I spent the year on IR. They saved me from myself. I would have rushed back if they let me. They didn't. Prayers for Tua. And again, there are a lot of different ways this could be handled, and a lot of ways it could be handled well. I think the result of what happened last night is a verdict on if the Dolphins handled it well or not. I don't think there's any room to say that this went according to the way it should go if you care about protecting the brain of your players.
DeMaurice Smith last night after the game was interviewed on ESPN about the investigation that's going on, and now even ramped up because this will now be a part of it. This will be included in that investigation. And he brought up an interesting point, and it made me think, as you were saying, a standalone nationally televised game. He said what happened tonight, last night when he was talking, now increases the skepticism from the public on head injuries.
I felt like the last week has set us back in the overall culture that both the NFL and the NFLPA wanted to build to change that focus from myopically what does the player want to what does the patient need.
And I think that's one of the things that people were talking about is how did he return to play? How was he there, connecting those two? And he's right. It does set it back because standalone nationally televised game, all the commentary was talking about it. People were watching. It was a great matchup. You got the undefeated Dolphins. You got the Bengals that are on the verge of going 1-3 to start the season, or giving Miami their first loss just to get back to 500 for the Bengals. Like, the matchup was great. Two offenses that can go up and down the field, and great wide receivers and things like that. Like, so everybody was interested in that game last night, and then that happens. He's right. It puts a spotlight on it, and it goes to, okay, are we really as advanced as we thought we were in terms of concussions and protecting yourself? It's an interesting tweet about protecting the player from himself. Chris Canty, who played for a few teams. I remember him with the Giants. He was on that Steve Spagnuolo defensive line that wreaked havoc on Tom Brady. He started on that defensive line. But Chris Canty played in the NFL until 2015. So the increase in awareness of concussions and protocol and return to play and all of that stuff was already taking place. Listen to him as he talks about what some players would do in the initial baseline for your concussion return to play protocol.
I myself and other players that I played with in the National Football League purposely flunked the baseline testing so it would be a lower bar to clear in order to return to sport if we did have a concussion or concussion-like symptoms. Because if you have a trauma event to your brain, they're going to go back and you got to take these computer tests. And if your tests are better or equal to the baseline, then they'll let you play. But if it's below that, they won't. So we used to intentionally flunk the test so we would have an opportunity to return to sport quicker because we understood the gravity of what it meant if we couldn't be available for our team.
Honestly, that's not surprising at all.
No.
I mean, now I don't know if there are other safeguards that are put in place, if maybe the NFL kind of got wind of that, because there's also at least on game day, during the game, there's a pupil test. So if you're concussed, you can't hide your eyes, and your reaction time to, following the light or whatever it is they may be doing when they're testing all of your range of motion and things like that. The computer test, though, as we've heard, okay, they have to pass this baseline to make sure that their motor neurons are firing the same way. And what he's saying is they would intentionally flunk that, which is sort of delayed responses to questions and whatever those questions might be, they would perform under what their natural level would be so that if they are suffering trauma, they would then reach that baseline. I'm hoping that there's an awareness with the NFL with that being the case, But Chris Canty saying, "Oh, I did it," and I know a lot of people that did that. I intentionally failed that test because I know what it meant to be out with a concussion as opposed to getting back out there and playing.
I have my pivot for this, but I want to hold it till after we get to the Mike Tomlin.
Okay, very good. Ryan Clark, and this thing goes into protecting the player.
Yeah.
This goes into then the team having to step up and say, you know what, you're not playing. It's for your own good. We're making the decision for you, even though you may have the doctor saying, he could go. We're going to go ahead and make the decision for you. Here's Ryan Clark and Mike Tomlin. This is from the
pivot is I think it's Ryan Clark's thing and first and foremost. And this is a conversation about Ryan Clark trying to play in Denver when he had sickle cell, and knowing that the altitude could be really, really problematic for him. This conversation I found very eye-opening in the context of last night.
I wanted to go play again. I wanted to play in Denver, and I had assembled this team together, and I was like, we're about to go in this. I was like, I got it. I was like, everything that you're telling me, you just got to go tell Mike T, and they're gonna let me play. And so we assembled this team, man, and we're sitting there. It's me, it's Young, my doctors, all of us, and we're like, we can do this. Like, we can get this done, Mike T. Like, I can go play. And, man, we 5 minutes through the spiel. I had 30 minutes for him. That was good. And he stops in the middle, and he says something to me, man, that I'll always be grateful for. He was like, if you were my kid, I wouldn't even be having this conversation.
The last time we was in Denver, man, this dude almost died, right?
Right.
No, man, I gotta lay my head down at night. It goes back to that point. How can you expect unique results, man, without unique relationships, man? It was my job to care about that dude in that moment.
Correct.
Even maybe more so than he cared about himself. That's leadership, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
First, as a leader, I got an obligation to safeguard him.
The doctor cleared him. The doctor cleared Ryan Clark to go and play in Denver. He had his team of doctors, his physician, whatever it might be, and presenting this 30-minute presentation to Mike Tomlin about how he's good to go. Here's the treatment. Here's what he'll do. I can play. And 5 minutes in, he stopped him and was like, if you were my son, we wouldn't be having the conversation. And he didn't play. Even though the doctor said he can play, Mike Tomlin was like, I don't care. You're not playing, dude.
This goes back to trying to figure out what type of people you're working with, what type of people you're hiring for these head coaching jobs, what the goal ultimately is. And now look, Mike McDaniel's in his third game. He just went through game 4 as an NFL head coach. I'm not sure this is on Mike McDaniel. This is his responsibility. I don't think you have Mike Tomlin pole in week 3 of your NFL career as a head coach. So this isn't about him at all, as far as we know right now. But if you have a head football coach who is willing to step between a player and the field to say, you cannot come with us because I am too worried about your health and your life, not just your health for next week, but your health, period, your life after football. I just don't imagine that the NFL has enough people willing to do that, especially in a sport where job security is a fickle thing. You lose 4 games in a row and all of a sudden you're on the hot seat. Well, what if your quarterback could have played through a concussion? You roll the dice, and all of a sudden now you're in the Coach of the Year conversation. That is a cultural problem within the NFL, throughout sports, really. But Harrison Butker could kick on Sunday night, and it might mess up the trajectory of his career. He could continue damaging his ankle. He could limp throughout his elderly years if he comes back too soon. But his brain's going to be okay. And talking about Ryan Clark, he might not have been.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot, and this goes back, there was an old John Madden clip I saw last night of him talking about, once I think you're concussed, I don't think you should go back into the game. John Madden was ahead of the curve on that one. We cannot treat head injuries and ankle injuries like the same thing. We can't treat head and back injuries like the same thing. Jameis Winston's broken vertebrae, now he's not going to play, and Andy Dalton's going to start this week. Wonder what happened there. But if you say questionable to return with a head injury and questionable to return with a hamstring, that is an NFL culture of injuries and getting you healthy and back out there as soon as possible. Patrick Mahomes fell on his thumb weird. They taped it up and got him back out there. He was handing it off with his right hand, even when he was going the opposite direction. That's not the same thing as trying to trot your quarterback back out there as he staggers his way to the sideline. This is not my original thought on this point. Several people mentioned this, but last night felt like watching a game from 2002. of tape him, and really last week for Tua as well. Tape him up, knock the cobwebs out, get him out there. And no pun intended, but it kind of gives you whiplash to realize that we are not quite as advanced in the care of the most important thing in a football player's body. Oftentimes, you treat it like a hammy, and we can't keep doing that.
So you had a pivot? You want to do that on the other side? Or was that the pivot?
The pivot was the podcast name. Ryan Clark's podcast. It's called
I thought
The
you
Pivot.
said, I know, but you said
Okay.
maybe you had a...
No, that was
way of-
I wanted to play that clip before I gave my full picture of thoughts through the lens of how
Okay.
Mike Tomlin handled
Awesome.
Ryan Clark.
Okay, so that was what
Courtesy
you were...
of the pivot.
Oh, that's perfectly fine.
I pivoted to the pivot.
Right.
And then now we're going to pivot to a break.
Yes. No, I thought you had like, okay, let me take this way.
Nah, that's
And let's get to this clip first, and then I'll take it a different way.
No, I just
so I
wanted to-
misunderstood that, but that's what you were talking about. You were waiting for the clip to then get to that part of your conversation about the totality, the entirety, the bigger picture view of
That's right.
the whole scene.
I wanted to put it in the context of what Tomlin said first. Also, Jason, there's an old TV show that prominently features the word pivot. I'll explain that reference to you during the break, though.
Oh. Does it have anything to do with moving a couch upstairs?
Yeah, and I love Seinfeld, so it's locked in here.
I'm also a big fan of The Simpsons.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're in the zone
Like, I didn't wake up this morning and say, I hope Mecole Hardman hurts a groin today.
with Jason Anderson
I hope Mecole Hardman hurts a groin today.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'll take Mecole Hardman's groin. All right, we'll hear from Lee Sterling coming up later on this hour. Matt Derrick will be our guest at 11 o'clock. Kendall Gammon at noon. Mick Shaffer, noon 20, noon 25. Chiefs press conference, Andy Reid, TBD, and some cuts before the show is over today. 913-912-4810. I am disappointed about tonight. I'm disappointed and excited at the same time. So, little man's got a baseball game tonight, and so I love, his baseball games. So I'm excited about that, but I'm disappointed that we will be missing the American Royal tonight. And when I moved back, it was one of the things that I looked forward to most was being a part of Pork Radio 810, again, and being out there. And so not happy about the fact that I'll miss it tonight, but looking forward to the game tonight as well. But Sports Radio 810 WHB, proud to once again be the official media partner of the American Royal World Series of Barbecue at Kansas Speedway, one of Kansas City's premier charity events, the largest barbecue contest in the world. And a special thanks to the great partners for supporting Pork Radio 810, including Hollywood Casino, Parisi Coffee, Allstate, Greengrass Cattle Company, AmeriLife Benefits, Boulevard Brewing Company, and also Hen House. So we certainly appreciate that, and should be a lot of fun tonight. I wish I was going to be out there partaking in the fun and the food. I don't even care about socializing or conversing with anybody out there. Just to stuff my face with massive amounts of barbecue, too much barbecue, to go into a barbecue coma after I'm done eating and maybe needing an Uber to get me home. Not for anything alcoholic, but for the fact that I may not be able to function or move.
You can be meat drunk.
Can you roll me to the car? Like I'm in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, please. Just roll me. What do you do when the barbecue's great?
Is that from the Johnny Depp one? It's from the one I've seen. That was a joke. I've seen.
But I want burn-ins now, Daddy.
There would be something really poetic about like drowning in a river of barbecue sauce, instead of the chocolate river. You start shoving burn-ins and you just start swelling into the shape of a burnt end, one singular chunk of burn-ins.
I've got a golden rib. I've got a golden brisket. Run home, Charlie. Run as fast as you can and don't stop till you eat the meat.
Really trying to come up with a barbecue word that rhymes with Oompa Loompa, but I'm having a very difficult time.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tough one to come up with the rhymes with. It's difficult, it's two fake words rhyming with each other, so Burnt
all right.
ends, brisket, doo-da-dee-doo. I have an empty stomach for you. We got there. I needed some time. The wheels were turning over here. Sometimes when my eyes are glazed over, it means I'm not paying attention, and more often it means I'm really working on a barbecue pun.
That makes sense.
About 90% of the time, I'm working on a barbecue pun.
It's odd. We were talking about something completely different, but we were discussing Chiefs and Bucs, and then he just pausing because he's trying to think of a barbecue pun.
That's right.
Apparently he's going to write down just in case we get to it today.
I had burn-ins twice in 2 days a week or two ago. It was
nothing wrong with that.
No, it was great. I've never felt better. It was incredible. I felt like I had ascended to a higher plane.
I've got a big one in my near future. That would be the Minskys and the Joes. Beards was just so disappointed. Beards was just like, Beards goes, and just reaches up to Mark. Like,
I might as well.
Fine, whatever.
We got a few hours to turn that one around.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing that back later.
That's fine. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Chiefs and Bucs this weekend. Are you developing a feel for the game?
Yeah.
I'm going through my process that I go through each and every week, and now I'm to the confident part of it. Now I'm to the okay, I feel good about the Chiefs, and they're going to win this game, and some of the things that are working in their favor, and they're going to respond with from that Colts game, and I believe they're the better team, and we'll see on Sunday. Now, Sunday morning, I might get right back into nerves, and oh my goodness, they might be 2-2 after this game. So we'll see. But right now, as my feelings shift throughout the week, kind of like the betting line, I'm in more of a confident stage right now.
That is so funny to me. That's where I was 24 hours ago. I am no longer there.
Okay.
I went through, I checked it out, and then I decided to go ahead and drive back to the middle again. Let me tell you what happened yesterday that really shook me.
Okay.
McCole Hardman, limited participant, heel. Marquez Valdez-Scantling did not practice abdomen. That was not expected based off the injury reports yesterday. He was limited, though, on Wednesday. Juju Smith-Schuster, full participant, on the injury report, still with his shoulder. That is scary to me. Mm-hmm. The offensive line and the Bucs' great pass rush and ability to get pressure without having to bring all of their guys, their excellent defense altogether, that all goes kind of without saying at this point. The new thing for me that has me just ever so slightly leaning in a more nervous direction is that I think Patrick Mahomes might have to win this game with Travis Kelce, Sky Moore, and Justin Watson. And Sky Moore hasn't gotten any meaningful work offensively yet. Justin Watson, I think, is a fine player, but their top 3 receivers are all on the injury report right now. And Hardman did not look right against the Colts. I don't know what happens with MVS or where this is coming from. That stuff is really making me nervous. I'm still very slightly leaning Chiefs, but I mean, it's 51-49.
But it's not. Yeah, it's not a confidence into where like they're going to win by 15. Like when I say I'm feeling more confident of the way they can play, and a little bit is looking at some of the advanced analytics from that, and we'll hear from Lee Sterling on the other side of the break. In that, if you go a little bit deeper in what the offenses look like and what they have looked like, explosive play rate. Without Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs are second in the NFL this year in explosive play rate. Tampa Bay's 28th. Early down success rate. Chiefs are 3rd, Tampa Bay's 23rd. Yards per play, the Chiefs are 7th, the Bucs are 25th. Perfect pass block rate. The Chiefs are middle of the pack, because yes, they've struggled. The Bucs are 31st in the league. So those offensive line issues have been just that. They have been issues for this team. And so the fact that the Chiefs are second in the NFL in pressure rate and the fact that the Bucs are 31st in the NFL in perfect pass block rates through the first 3 weeks, those are certainly advantages in their favor. Mm-hmm. Some of the lack of explosive plays for the Bucs certainly account for the fact that Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones were all missing. The pass rush or the perfect pass block struggles are injuries, yes, but Donovan Smith still is not, he may play this week, and he's not a full participant. He's limited, and we'll see if he was limited last week. He practiced last week. He didn't play. So practicing this week limited doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be out there and playing. So there are some things, certainly advantages in the Chiefs' favor from how they've played through the first 3 weeks. And what a note, and then we'll take a timeout, and that is the Bucs defense, while it has thrived, the offenses they've gone up against have ranked 14th, 25th, and 31st in expected points added per play. So
I like where you're at. It looks nice over there.
It looks nice.
I was there a second ago and I haven't gotten back yet.
I was also there last week.
I might get. Yeah. Oh, I was in a nice place last week. I was on a beach last week.
That's right. I was already looking ahead of the Bucs last week. So were the Chiefs. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from Lee Sterling next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810.
Who's going to win and by how much? You're about to find out from national sports handicapping champion Lee Sterling on The Zone. Log on to ParamountSports.com or call toll-free 800-400-9741 to get started.
It is a Red Friday on The Zone. Time to talk to our good friend Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. And it's been good for you so far this year, Lee, and people love it because it's legal to bet in Kansas. Locktober is right on our doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've had some good runs here. This is one of the best runs ever. We have not only won 6 out of 7 weeks since the start of the preseason, we've won big, 9-2 last week, including a perfect 5-0 on Sunday and Monday, 8-3 the week before that, 6-3 the week before that. So no one's complaining. That's a 23-8 run. So anyone wants to get involved, we don't call it October, we call it Locktober. And how about this? You know, I said I want to get people involved. I know if people come aboard and they sign up with me, they're going to be happy and they're going to, want to continue. So how about this special? Normally it's $4.97 for Locktober for 5 weeks, and that goes through October 31st. I'm going to give you not a $100 discount, $3.97. If you use coupon code SAVE50, that's S-A-V-E and the number 50, lower casing, S-A-V-E, no space between the word and the number, SAVE50, just $347, 5 weeks of my phone service. That's 10 to 14 games a week, and I'm going to throw in baseball. We've had 50 more wins and losses in baseball this year. We average playing a plus 111 underdog. There's guys out there tell you, oh, I've won 100 more games than I've lost. Yeah, well, you're playing minus 200, minus 300 favorites. We average playing a plus 111 underdog. You can get all of baseball through the World Series for free, and I'll throw in my UFC card on Saturday night for free. Everything, just $347, ParamountSports.com. When you get to the website, on the homepage, it says Purchase Picks on the top. Just click on there, first purchase option.
All right, Lee, let's run through some games that we've assigned to you that are of local interest here. Baylor and Oklahoma State. This game is in Waco. They got a big win on the road last week in Ames. Oklahoma State was off. They played twice last year. Baylor got the one that counted for the championship. What do you think here?
I like the fact that Baylor was aggressive last week. They even threw in a few trick plays there in that game. They played to win, which they did not against BYU. OSU, 23rd in yards per play offense. Baylor's defense, number 18 in yards per play allowed, I think is going to negate that offense. Sanders tossed 7 interceptions in the 2 games versus Baylor last year. He's got to play clean for them win. I don't think he's anything special here, and I don't think he has a great supporting cast either here. Baylor at home, they get the job done 27-20.
Yeah, it's all going to lay on Spencer Sanders if he can get it done. All right, K-State had a huge win on the road last week at Oklahoma. Texas Tech had a huge win at home against Texas, so they're both coming off emotional highs. Mm-hmm. Kansas State's a touchdown favorite at home here, an 11 a.m. start.
The big question here is, will Kansas State have a letdown? And I don't think that they will. I think the team that's going to have a letdown is Texas Tech. This is like their season. I think we know our teams pretty well. Texas Tech, if they beat Texas, I swear, I have some friends that go to Tech. They'll be like, yeah, we were 5-7, but we beat Texas. So it's crazy the way they think. It's been routine for them. They've won now 3 of the last 4 years. Tech win over Texas. They were not the better team in that game. It was the turnovers and the play in the red zone. Donovan Smith is just hot and cold, especially on the road. Little pocket awareness, poor reading coverages here. And Tech has lost the last 2 in Manhattan by double digits here. Special teams and home field, I think, are the difference here. I like Kansas State here, 34-20.
Well, if Adrian Martinez plays like he did in Norman, they're going to win a lot of games this year.
Yep.
All right, so Kansas answered the question at home last week. They got a big win in front of a sellout crowd. Now they've got Iowa State coming there, and they're getting points at home. Why is Iowa State favored in this game? Because I'm not sure how strong they are this year.
I agree with you. And they scored 2 late touchdowns, garbage touchdowns, and that loss to Baylor, or else it wasn't even close. I mean, some people who didn't see the game looked at the score like, oh, okay, well, Kansas, they're playing a team that's still really good. I don't think so here. they don't do any one thing well on offense or defense, which in the past, they had like Brees Hall, they had great tight ends. I don't see guys that scare you anymore. In Kansas, number 8 running attack, number 7 passing attack, and Iowa State not real good on the road, 1-4 against the spread road play here. This amazing Kansas run will end, but it's not going to be this weekend here. They are in the feature spot here in the NFL. I like Kansas here, 35-30.
All right, let's move on to the National Football League. The Broncos are a mess. They won last week. They're 2-1. They're tied with the Chiefs, but they can't feel like they've played very well. And the Raiders haven't won a game yet. The Raiders are favorites at home.
Okay, the Raiders, we know, are the only team without a win or a tie. There's some teams with ties out there. But they have outplayed each one of their 3 opponents for a half. They blew that 16-point fourth-quarter lead to the Cardinals. They had some elite guys. I mean, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, almost unguardable. The offensive line, which has 3 new starters, I was watching them, and they're starting to come together. And Max Crosby, I think he's going to do a number here on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is not identifying coverages. He does not look comfortable at all in this offense, and I don't think it's something that's all of a sudden going to shake out and all of a sudden they're going to start just scoring points and driving up and down the field. They have more 3-and-outs than any team in the NFL. They had 8 against San Francisco last week here. Nathaniel Hackett looks overmatched here, and the Raiders have owned the Broncos, winning 6 of the last 7. Make it 7 out of 8 here. Russell Wilson, he looks cooked here. Vegas big, 34-13.
All right, how about the Chiefs in Tampa? Tampa's offense looks atrocious. The Chiefs just couldn't do anything right and couldn't get out of their own way last week. Can they bounce back this week?
I think that this Tampa Bay team is similar to Indianapolis. So what you have here is you have a team that, looking to bounce back from last week, both of them. But I just see that this Tampa Bay team here is their defense. If you look at all the units that are on the field here, they might be the strongest. And then you got a team here that is just like Indy, physical running attack, strong run defense here. And now they're going to get back Mike Evans and also Julio Jones. They will both play in this game here. That was the problem. I mean, he had no one to throw to. So just if he had any type of weapons, they win that game, I thought, easily. So, Kansas City's going to be up against it. This is a really tough matchup for them. And I think it's going to be low scoring again. I like Tampa Bay, 2017.
You were right last week. I don't know, you're not making Chiefs fans happy, but it's money is what
Sorry,
is what
just
does
got a
it.
call like hey, trust me, not a Tom Brady fan, but it was not his fault. Hey, we faced him, and he's beaten us when he was New England for almost 20 years. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I like the low-scoring game probably even more than the game.
All right, Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, is our guest. Locktober is underway, and you've got a game of the week for us as well.
Yeah, game of the week this week is going to be Oklahoma and TCU. And Oklahoma looking to come back off that loss last week. TCU, maybe the surprise of the conference here in the Big 12. So you want to get this game, just call 800-400-9741. And like I said, it's not October, it's Locktober. We've never been hotter. If you have not been with me before, if you've never tried gambling on sports, this is the time you want to get involved. 5 weeks, not $397, just $347. Use coupon code SAVE50. You're going to get 5 weeks through October 31st, and that's 10 to 14 games a week. We're also going to throw in baseball through the World Series and also the UFC card this weekend, ParamountSports.com.
All right, Lee, good luck this week. More Zone coming up next on a Red Friday on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Red Fridays on Sports Radio 810 WHB are presented by Bud Light for the fans of game day.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
That's a clown take, bro.
On Sports Radio 810.
That can only mean one thing. Matt Derrick is here. It's time to fight.
Finish him.
It is fighting music. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's time to get funky.
Have you ever played Mortal Kombat?
Funky. Absolutely, I played Mortal Kombat.
Well, you know what? It's a game.
Yes, absolutely.
I should know that.
That is absolutely though where that line's going to get drawn. Is if
you ever
we
played
can,
Frogger?
Absolutely, hours of Frogger. That Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Turtles in Time, the stand-up cabinet game, man. I can talk vintage video games.
Street Fighter?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't play a ton of fighting games, but certainly
Contra.
Certainly, I can get my way through it a little bit.
Contra?
I don't think I played Contra. I played Contra.
You never played Contra? Okay.
What was that on? Was that a?
It was Sega, right?
Sega. I never had a Sega product.
Was it arcade? Oh,
no,
Mortal Kombat?
No,
Contra,
Sega Contra was Nintendo because then it was left, right, up, down, A, B, select, A, B, A, B, select, start.
Game. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just remember
you got
the
100 lives
free
in
game that
Contra?
came with the Sega Genesis, Altered Beast.
Altered Beast.
I didn't have that one. We didn't get that.
I only had
free
that because
game.
it was free.
We didn't get a free game. Oh man.
We're here with Altered Beast, Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. Whoa, this game looks awesome.
When I stole the Sega Genesis from that kid, I didn't get the free game that came with it. So dang it. It was a free Sega though. Just joking. I didn't do that.
I would like to thank the taxpayers of the state of Missouri because I used my scholarship money to buy my Sega Genesis. So
well, you know what? It went to a good cause.
There you
It
go.
went to a good cause.
Matt, did you ever see the cover art for Altered Beast?
Yes.
Was it a beast that was altered?
That is it.
I don't know, Jason. What's this make you feel? Hold on, let me wait for my little battery thing to go in. There you go.
That is absurd.
It is a ribald werewolf. This werewolf has.
But it's not a werewolf.
But
It's an altered
werewolf.
beast.
Sorry,
Yeah.
good point. Sorry. That's what it looks like. For
It actually looks like a cat on it, like a cat head is what it looks like.
It just
Very chiseled body with a cat head.
Chiseled. A little too chiseled for me personally.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They had a remake of this in 2005. I want to play the original version. This looks fun.
I never played the original version. Did you like Altered
Party
Beast?
at Matt's house?
I have it still so
have
I
it?
can bring it
Okay.
in.
I'd love that.
Somebody dropped off Super Tecmo Bowl for us last year at some point because we were talking about how I would smoke Shane in Tecmo Bowl. And he's like, no, you won't. Brr, brr, brr. Like, yes, I will. And so they brought it in. We just don't have the game system to play it, so it's down on my desk.
Switch has it on one of the official Nintendo emulators now. So if you ever need to I'll bring in my Switch. You and Shane can finally have your Tecmo Bowl competition.
Done and done.
Here's the crazy thing. I actually still have my original Sega Genesis along with many of the cartridges.
Awesome.
And then for some reason, I went ahead and bought the throwback console that has...
Yeah, more recently?
More recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know why I did that because I still have my old Sega Genesis. But
I've got my original PlayStation, and that original PlayStation is downstairs in the general workroom with the big TV, along with my games. They're down there because during the pandemic, when everybody was gone, and the only people that were coming into work were like Lebo, Shane, Jed, who else? I guess
Rudy was here.
Jake at that
most
time,
of the time.
right?
Jake would have been here. Yeah.
They would, in downtime, they would then go and play because they were the ones that were taking care of everything here, so they had to put in extra hours. So in downtime, they would go down and play PlayStation. Awesome. So they're like, well, we need something to do while we're here and nobody else is around. So
I still have my Xbox 360 hooked up that I solely for the sole purpose of playing NCAA 14.
Matt, I got my Steam Deck in yesterday, and one of the first things I wanted to talk about. First of all, I can now play football games in a handheld console, which is basically the reason I actually bought it. I'm gonna try to get NFL Street 2 ported over on it because I have that emulated on my laptop. But I think it's finally time for me to be the football manager that I've always dreamt of being. I can't remember which version of the game. I think it's 8 that you are the diehard on. Front Office Football 8.
That's the final version. Yes.
That I can now play in handheld mode, and I think I might be a fiend. I hadn't either until Matt mentioned it.
You should really be up your alley because it's all about the spreadsheets.
Yeah, this actually.
You'd love it.
We might be able to get you in on
We
this
need to have
we
get you guys in on this, and we'll have a multiplayer league, and we could really go to town.
Can we be rival teams?
We can.
Oh my goodness. Can we open this up to I don't want to make this willy-nilly, but can
Don't
we open
be
it up
willy-nilly.
to listeners and other
Absolutely.
people? Do a full
You can have a
league?
32-player multiplayer league.
Really?
Here's the most
and
important
it's a
question.
dynasty, so for years you can do this.
Here-
I know people who they're probably if they're not 100 seasons in, I'd be surprised.
Just them and just pulling a Jerry Jones.
What is this? What is this on? What console is this?
It's PC, so it's a PC game.
Okay, all
You
right.
can get it on Steam.
It's PC-13, so
front
a lot of
office
people can
front
play it.
office football.
Front office football. Okay.
So here's the most
Seismic software.
The most important question I could ask you is that in this world that we have tiptoed into, would you be willing to be the commissioner of this?
I mean, I think unless there's someone more proficient who want to step forward. I mean, I know there's a few people in town. I know my guy Jesse plays front office football. There's a few others I know from the message boards that are in Kansas City. So there's probably at least 2 or 3 other people I would bet listening who have played the front office football.
I am legitimately ready
I've
to
never-
hop into
never
this
played it.
however deeply I need to. Now that I have it, I can get it in handheld form. I think this will have to work for Steam Deck. I can't imagine why it wouldn't. I guess it's a lot of typing. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Clicking more than typing.
I can live with that, and I could even just play it on my laptop still. But verified on Steam Deck. I mean, look at that.
Woohoo!
We're cooking with gas over here.
There you go.
My favorite one was early 2000s, maybe late 90s NCAA, and I would always play with Clemson and Woody Dantzler at quarterback, and I would just run all over the place. And people were like, "You're playing with Clemson?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll just play with Clemson." And then Woody Dantzler was like unstoppable. It was like one of those secret things with the game, and I would call a pass play and just run around. And that was it, and just take off. And it wasn't exactly Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl, but it was ridiculous how good he was versus the player he was in real life. He was a really good player at Clemson, but just not to the level that he was.
But a monster.
Yes, not to the level that he was, shown in that game to be. So, but it was great. Just to be random. I'll take Clemson. I don't care.
In the original Tecmo Bowl, not Super Tecmo Bowl, but the original one, if you play with Chicago, tight end Cap Boso, unstoppable.
Really?
Yes.
Cap Boso.
It was just a little tight end slant over the middle,
People
and
don't remember
it could not be stopped.
That Boso's family created Tecmo Bowl, so they made their son very, very good. Speaking of very, very good,
You guys played Retro Bowl?
no.
Mobile game called Retro Bowl. It's like, hold on, I know that you
I'm
wanted to
familiar
shift.
with it. I have
Is it
not
eight-
played
is
it,
it
but I am
8-bit?
familiar with it.
I think it's a pixel art style, so there's a little more depth to it. Sorry, I was going to try to show you the gameplay, but security footage of rookie Larnell Fleming fighting outside a nightclub has appeared on social media. Now, I don't want to find the player, so I'm going to go ahead and ignore that, and it's
Okay,
going to hurt
good.
my team morale a little bit. But it is very much that Tecmo Bowl art style, but it's all on mobile. You can buy the full version for literally $1, I think. It is excellent. Hold on, we're gonna get my offense out here. You can see like the routes and stuff. It is all just very it's just touch football. There touch screen stuff there. I threw a pick because I was playing sideways. This might be another shot clock review for a new audience. I've definitely reviewed it on AES back in the day.
Okay.
I'm gonna write it down though, because I think this would be up both your guys' alleys. It's nice to have a nice little mobile game that you can just knock out in a couple of swings too.
Absolutely. So
speaking of the Buccaneers.
Speaking of great things, let's start with the Chiefs defense. There's been a lot of the things that have been going
That was the
wrong.
only segue I would accept there. So good job.
There was a lot of things we've talked about on the negative side this week, and there hasn't nearly been enough conversation given to the defense and how they have played so far. So what are you seeing in 3 weeks from this Chiefs defense?
Seeing a lot of good football. I mean, I think you are definitely seeing the upgrades that you get with speed. I mean, this is a faster defense across the board. So that, I think, is the biggest thing. I mean, there's definitely less experience. There's no doubt about that. But the trade-off for the speed, I think, has been a real benefit. The linebacker group as a whole has been playing fantastic.
Yeah.
Nick Bolton's been great. I mean, Willie Gay was pretty darn good. Darius Harris was very solid last week. You see what happens when you've got 2 or 3 of those guys playing at a high level. You don't give up chunk plays. I mean, you're not letting guys that get it, to the second level get any further. And those guys are playing really well. I mean, I think there's a lot to like across the board. I mean, could they be getting more production up front? Yeah, but you know what? I mean, 3 weeks in, you want to look at the trends. I mean, the numbers don't look bad, either with sacks or pressures. So, long way to go, but I think there's a lot to like. I mean, let's see how the league reacts and adjusts to them, but I think it's been pretty solid so far.
They are second in pressure rate in the NFL, and they are seventh in pressure rate when they bring 4. Now, they've blitzed a good portion of the time, so it might be, Karlaftis drops back, which he's done a few times, or Dana drops back and somebody else is blitzing. They're still only bringing 4 and dropping 7, but they are the 7th best in pressure rate at that. When's the last time we saw that? 18?
It's been a while.
When you're talking about just your front 4, just 4 guys are putting pressure on the quarterback that you don't have to blitz and bring 5 or 6 to be able to get there, it changes so much that Spags can do if he feels confident that either his scheme or players making plays or the combination of that is resulting in him being able to drop 7 guys in coverage a number of times and still feel like he's going to get pressure there. They're not 32nd in pressure rate when bringing 4 and 2nd in pressure rate overall. No, there's a good portion of that being number 2 in pressure rate from when they even just bring 4.
And to me, the real benefit is that last year they were having to sometimes bring blitzes just to create pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now with the blitzes, they're creating plays. They're getting sacks. They're getting turnovers. That's what you've got to do. If you're just blitzing to create pressure, that's a problem because you need to be able to get that with 4. And Chris Jones has been a beast. He's leading the league in pressures. That's what you need from Chris Jones.
So his motor continues to run. His mouth ran a little bit too. But that's fine.
So we're told.
It was a terrible call. Whatever.
What did you think about what Jones said when Lebo and Vahe got him in the locker room about specifically the idea that it's not very helpful for players to not know what they've been penalized for saying? Because I think I made that argument at some point this week. I find that argument very compelling in terms of a little more transparency from the NFL. You can punish Chris Jones and the Chiefs, but that doesn't do any good for anyone else in the sport.
No, it doesn't. And I've had conversations with people just guessing at what he must have said and everything. And nobody has a compelling idea about what exactly was said. It could very well have been that this was something abhorrent that does not belong on a football field, as apparently the report from the officials said. But what could that have been?
I loved when Lebo asked him, and he was kind of joking and being sarcastic. It was like, was that the worst thing you've ever said on a football field? And Chris Jones said it was actually one of the nicest. It's one of the nicest things I've said on a football field, which was a great line. It's just it's absurd that it was called there, but it's one of 50 things that happened in the game that had they gone differently, we could be talking about a 3-0 Chiefs team instead of a 2-1 Chiefs team. That if they lose on Sunday, they're at 500. Sitting 2-2.
But not knowing what you can say to get a penalty is very on brand for the NFL, which does not know what a catch is.
It doesn't know what a catch, doesn't know what bad language is, all of that stuff. But as we were talking about guys making plays, you mentioned Chris Jones in the pressures that he's putting on. So it's scheme and also players making plays. So one of the plays in the game against the Colts, Frank Clark's sack on Matt Ryan was on first down, and that was when they rushed 3 guys on first down. They had, and Craig Stout pointed this out, and it was a really awesome video that he put out. Turk Wharton and Frank Clark. Turk was lined up inside, Frank Clark on the outside. They sent somebody in motion, and so when they did that, Frank Clark and Turk Wharton recognized that the running back was going to come out of the backfield a certain way. So they flipped. Turk went outside. Frank Clark went inside. And at the snap, Turk didn't rush. The right tackle was ready for Turk Wharton to come after him. Turk didn't rush. He just ran to the running back in the flat. And Matt Ryan immediately couldn't throw there. So good scheme, good recognition. But Frank Clark whipped the right guard's butt. Just bull rushed him, pushed him over, and then went and sacked Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan, his first read, and so the Chiefs are dropping this many. Boom, let me get it out to my running back over here. Oh, wait, their defensive end is standing there waiting for him. let me go to my, oh, wait, I can't go to my second read because what was a defensive end who then goes up against a right guard who just bull rushed the guy who fell straight backwards and is already sacking me. It's scheme and guys making plays. Because last year, Frank Clark, does he make that play? Does he get stopped? Does Matt Ryan find a second or third read there and it's a first down and they extend the chains instead of they're now 2nd and 18 and they punt the ball on that drive? Like what happens on that? Good scheme, but one of the things that, is happening is that players are making plays as well. And I feel like Steve Spagnuolo is as dialed in with his group of players right now in getting an expected level and being able to call plays and scheme based on what he feels like the expected level of these players are going to play at. And it's all working in concert right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and watching that play in particular, I mean, yeah, if you can devise a scheme that gets your edge rusher up against a guard in a spot like that, one-on-one, I mean, that's a favorable matchup for you because usually that's going to be a little bit of a size mismatch. It's certainly a speed mismatch. And in that case, I mean, you're right. I mean, Clark absolutely won that rep. I mean, he just bowled him over and made the play. And, yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things. I mean, I give not just a huge credit to the team for and the players for being able to make the plays that they did, but that was a tremendous scouting report that the Chiefs had. Because, I mean, it felt like at times that Nick Bolton must have been in the huddle with Matt Ryan because the Chiefs knew what the Colts were doing. There were no surprises. I mean, and look at it, the defense only gave up 13 points. I mean, take off the one touchdown with the short field. 13 points is it. And, I mean, that should win you most games. I mean, that was a pretty dominant performance.
If they give up 13 this week and they're winning.
Yes.
I will go out on a limb.
I will bank on that.
I will say if the Chiefs give up 13 points this week and they're going to win, I think the offense is going to be better than what they showed against the Colts. Darius Harris stepped in. We had a conversation about Darius Harris last week, having to fill in for Willie Gay. The Chiefs coaches said perfectly fine, love what we've seen from Darius Harris and his growth. And Spagnuolo said yesterday he's a different guy. He's a different man. From the second he got to training camp, he just looked different. Throughout the summer, it's a different guy than they've seen the last couple of years, and it's just grown since then. He was good. It wasn't just that Darius Harris wasn't bad. It's like, you're filling in for Willie Gay, just don't be a net negative. He made some plays. He was good. He may not have been as fast as Willie Gay, but he was in position a number of times, and as often as they were going to go and attack him, what was it, Jelani Woods on, 2nd and goal, or was it 3rd and goal that they had when it's like, I understand why people would be focusing on Jonathan Taylor. And the tight end gets right by you, and you're like, oh, crap, it's a play action, and it's a touchdown. It's a great call. But as much as they were going to be focusing on him, just as the Chargers were focusing on Jalen Watson, I thought Darius Harris held his own and played not only just fine, I thought he played well.
Yeah, and even on that play, I mean, I could be reading way too much into it, but you just look at it and you could see the wheels, I think, churning in Darius Harris's mind. Yeah. He's like, wait a minute, this looks like a problem, but he has to calculate very quickly, and I think I probably would have made the same calculation. I mean, if I'm going to worry about Jelani Woods or I'm going to worry about Taylor, I'm going to worry about Taylor. I mean, if he sees there's a problem in front of him, I mean, that's the problem you address is the one in front of you. You don't worry about Jelani Woods. So that was the one breakdown in the scouting report that I will say is that apparently the Chiefs did not realize Jelani Woods was on the Colts. And nobody did. I mean, it was his first 2 catches. So, I didn't. What are you going to do about that? But no, and Spags, he talked about Darius Harris, and I had a chance to talk to Darius, I guess, during the preseason. Remember, 19 was his rookie season, and he was on non-football injury all year long, so he was rehabbing completely. So we never talked to him. And 20 was his first year. 21, he was just kind of, and we're not in the locker rooms. I don't think he was ever on a Zoom in 20 or 21.
I don't even know if I've ever heard him talk.
I mean, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I went over to him after one of the preseason games to just say, hey, Darius, I know you've been here 3 years. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I had no expectations about it. But in that conversation, I see exactly what Spags was talking about. I mean, this is clearly a high football IQ guy. Has a really outgoing personality. I mean, you can see that from, I can see why the teammates like him. He's really impressive when you get to meet him and everything, which we haven't gotten to do.
Yeah.
So I see that, and in talking about his leap that he made, and Spags said you could see it during the off season. we often talk about that, freshman to sophomore year jump, but sometimes guys need that third year. I mean, there's a lot of players who will say, you know what, the biggest jump is not year 1 to year 2. It's year 2 to year 3. And this is essentially his year 3 because of the injury year.
A couple of other things with that. You mentioned recognition of plays, and it was early in the game. It was the play Jalen Watson made on the wide receiver screen when Chiefs were bringing a big
screens
blitz.
went nowhere, by the way.
Couldn't run one. Couldn't run one. It was incredible.
No.
But on that particular play, the Colts had 3 to block 2. Jalen Watson was one of the guys, and then I believe it was Thornhill on the back end because Snead was blitzing along with Nick Bolton. And so it seems like they got him in a position. The Colts got him. Like they got the Chiefs exactly where they want them. We are going to throw this out. They're blitzing everybody. We're throwing this out there. We've got a wide receiver catching it, and then we've got 2 blockers for 2 guys and nothing but green pasture. But Jalen Watson stayed with Pittman, fought through the block, tackles him. But that play also, when you watch it from the end zone, as soon as the snap happens, Darius Harris is looking in and see it must have been an offensive lineman or something because he immediately runs left, just sprints left and going towards the wide receiver screen. And that to me was amazing recognition because when the play started, you're like, oh my God, Jalen Watson, if he doesn't make that play, he scores. Then I watch it again and go, well, Jalen Watson, if he doesn't make the tackle, Darius Harris is in pursuit and might bring him down with a gain of 2 or 3 yards. That's how quick Harris recognized and got over there. Now, maybe that was the play. Maybe his job was you're lining up in the middle and you're just going to sprint left. But it wasn't just sprinting left. It was like a pause, and it almost like he saw an offensive lineman move and he just went right there. So maybe that's an obvious play that every linebacker makes, right? Okay, this is a screen.
I've seen plenty not make that play.
Exactly. I've seen plenty of Chiefs, linebackers, whoever, not make that play and not get over there in time to then make the tackle or, oh, I see it and I don't have the speed to get there. It was a fabulous play by Jalen Watson. It was also a play that I still think the Chiefs stop, even if Watson gets blocked by one of those guys out there because of the recognition of Darius Harris. And it's also part of the perfectly called up and schemed blitzes that I thought, Spagnuolo was calling. And, L'Jarius Snead getting there a couple of times and the strip sack and other times just breaking free to where Matt Ryan just didn't have time. And I think also it caused issues with their offense because Matt Ryan sometimes didn't have time. But then also bringing the blitz, there's an expectation of he may not have time. And so am I looking at my hot read now and, oh, wait, the hot read's not there? Which is, kind of goes back to what we were talking about the first play with Frank Clark beating the right guard and Turk Wharton staying with the running back and them only bringing 3 when they had 2 guys at the line of scrimmage that were showing blitz. And they end up only bringing 3. So Matt Ryan takes a snap and looks hot. Oh, wait. My hot read's not there because they're not bringing 5. They're actually only bringing 3. I think Spags is as dialed in so far as the struggles that I think Andy Reid has had, from time to time, and Eric Bieniemy and Nagy and some of the play calls and the game planning. It seems like the offense getting a little stagnant. I've been thoroughly impressed with Steve Spagnuolo, and the excitement is about what it may look like throughout the year with new wrinkles added because he's got the speed and playmakers now that I don't think he's had to this degree, since he's been in Kansas City.
Yeah, and I go back to one of the things he talked about during training camp, which was, this being, as much as we're talking about this being a more athletic and a speedy group, it's also a pretty smart group. I mean, even the rookies that they've brought in, I've picked up things quickly. And he's talked about overloading these guys and trying to figure out what they can and can't do and testing them. And clearly you've seen, this group rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. So, to me, I mean, the fact that he's got a group of fast athletic players who can handle the workload he's throwing on them, it's a great combination. And yes, typically what we have seen with Steve Spagnuolo is that his defenses get better throughout the season. So if the second quarter of the season isn't better than the first, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, what level of maybe impressed or maybe even surprised is the word. What level of surprised are you that McDuffie's going to miss his 3rd game, Willie Gay's going to miss his 2nd, and so far, I mean, we'll see against the Bucs. So far, it doesn't look like they've missed a beat without their first-round draft pick in McDuffie and one of their better linebacking playmakers in Willie Gay, and even Dana, being out, who's had a really high pressure rate this year.
And I think we've talked about it, even during the offseason and during training camp, that especially that cornerback group, which was the idea that, hey, you know what? They look like they might have a little something at the top, but they get one injury or two injuries, and you're going to have a lot of questions. And Jalen Watson has helped him answer a lot of those questions. I mean, he's played some very good football so far.
But he also knows that they've attacked him. Like every game, it's only been 2, but Chargers and Colts, I mean, he's getting balls thrown his way. Like they are looking his way, they are attacking him, they're throwing his way, and he has handled that really well this year. And that's a surprise. It's also encouraging, and you feel like maybe the Chiefs have a couple of guys at cornerback moving forward when Fenton walks at the end of this year. And then Snead may be looking for a big payday in a couple of years. And if that's the case, then maybe you can then change it over to McDuffie and Watson, those next guys with Cook and then whoever else. If Watson was just a guy and it's like, well, they're still relying on Baker here, and they had to bring back Mike Hughes because of what they didn't think they were getting in these guys, yeah, that would be a concern. But the fact that not only do they trust him, they've left him on an island a lot. Spagnuolo has.
And here's the other crazy thing is we're talking about it is that, of the last 3 seasons, their MVP was Tyrann Mathieu at the safety level. And yet I think that between Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill right now, I think we're seeing maybe the best safety play combined that we've seen with this team for a while.
I agree.
And that helps those corners too, because I think you are certainly seeing that these corners are playing with no fear whatsoever about what happens behind them. Because they feel like they trust those two guys, and both those guys are young, physical athletes who, and I think Thornhill in particular shows much better speed and recognition and reaction than he's had in the past. That helps. I mean, if you're out there on the outside and you don't have to worry about what's going on behind you, it makes your job a whole lot easier.
Yeah, Juan Thornhill played a really good game. I know that he got beat on the touchdown to Jelani Woods, but I thought he was really good. So 913-912-4810 is the text line.
Some big news, Matt.
Yeah, what's the news?
Altered Beast, singular, on Steam, original version, 99 cents.
You know what? That is accurate pricing. That is,
and I will have a report for you by next week, assuming that it does work on Steam Deck. I will check when I get home.
Altered Beast. Cannot wait. We'll take a time out. We'll come back and continue rolling with Matt Derrick. We'll look at the offense. We'll look at some things that they may need to alter as they get ready for Tampa Bay and the Bucs, and see if Matt Derrick has a read on the game and what he thinks might take place, and a prediction from him as well. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Byron Pringle was born before you were.
Yeah.
And Byron Pringle was born when I was a junior in college. I just realized I could be your father. I mean, my social life would have had to have gone much, much better. But.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, hanging out with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. We'll talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer after that. We'll hear from Andy Reid and we believe Travis Kelce today. We were going to hear from Travis Kelce yesterday, but they traded Kelce for Creed. I guess Creed was going to go today. But now it's Kelce. So
wish they could have traded for T. Higgins. Looked pretty good last night. Where'd he get drafted?
Near Edwards-Helaire?
No.
Probably.
Hey, whoa, I didn't say a name.
Probably before him because they didn't have a chance to draft T. Higgins or Pittman.
Yeah, you got to have a top 15 pick to get wide receiver help in the draft.
They wouldn't have been able to draft any of those guys or Taylor. All those guys were gone. The only guys they wanted, gone, and nobody else there on board. You got to just take whoever's left. Matt Derrick is with us. Speaking of that, though.
What's your fight percentage forecast now, Matt, after that unnecessary slander?
0%.
Oh, no, I mean, the fight percentage, I said it was 65% of no fighting, so that means it was 35% chance of fighting.
Yeah, that's true.
36.
Okay, all right.
It increased by a percent.
Yeah.
So the fight probability increased by 1% with that. All right, so we kicked the field goal. We're good. All right, so
we settled for 3. There you go. That's how we'll start the fight.
We joke about Edwards-Helaire, right? I mean, whatever. The running game has been, problematic. The offensive line was problematic against the Colts. So my question to you is, coming out of that game and now looking ahead, how much of that game is offensively like, some things didn't work out right, might have been some guys that were hampered a little bit with injuries, but it's the Chiefs offense, they'll be fine? And how much maybe after the last couple of weeks against the Chargers and also the Colts, maybe temper expectations and the offense maybe not as good or high-powered, certainly as it looked against the Cardinals, but maybe dial that back a little bit and reset expectations for how good this offense can be?
I mean, my sense from talking to some of the guys this week has been that there's some challenging and soul-searching going on this week in the run game. And it's all around. I mean, I think Andy Reid will tell you, he basically has said that some of it is certainly he can call better plays, and I think you're going to see that. I mean, it sounds like they're putting in some new concepts this week, to do things a little bit differently. Execution's going to be part of it. I mean, and there's no doubt. I mean, Clyde missed I think a pretty easy lane for a touchdown last week. You got to execute better, and the offensive line as well. And injuries have probably been a part of that. You got a couple of guys who were banged up. I mean, nothing that's obviously been keeping them out, but Orlando's had a little bit of a lingering thing. Trey Smith's had the ankle. I know Wiley got poked in the eye and came out for a play, and then he's also got a little bit of a dinged up ankle right now. But that happens.
Yeah.
And you got to feel pretty confident with that group. But no, I think it comes down to clearly a couple of things, and one is absolutely coaching and execution. I mean, they've got to be better at that. But I also think, and this is why I think that there will be a little some rebound with the run game this week, is that Andy Reid is going to challenge these guys. I mean,
but they are going up against the best run defense in the NFL.
They are going
through 3 weeks,
and that is another reason why they're being challenged this week.
Yeah.
I mean, as one of the players told me, this is butt kick week. I mean, this is what the lines on both sides are probably getting a little bit as some tough love. I mean, there's no hugging everybody up this week. This is you go out and win your matchup, or there'll be consequences. I mean, that's the kind of attitude they've got right now.
I don't think they needed the extra motivation. I think they were going to be motivated just fine. I think they know how they played, and there's going to be the honest self-assessment and self-scouting in the film by the individual players in what they think of their play. But I don't think it's smart by Shaq Barrett
to poke the bear,
to then say that they're going to have a coming out party against this Chiefs offensive line, and it doesn't look different than the one in the Super Bowl that was ravaged by injury, and they just had their way with that offensive line. And you heard it from Patrick Mahomes in his 6-second answer on responding to Shaq Barrett. I don't think Like, I don't think the Chiefs are going to go like, oh, well, now let's beat the Bucs. But I think it's an extra little edge of a, you know what, bleep you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Bleep you. Bring it then. Bring it, because you better be ready to answer the bell, because we were already going to, but now we're pissed. Now we feel like you're challenging.
Never
how good we are.
poke the bear.
Yeah, and Mahomes doesn't take lightly to those things, even if it's about the offensive line. But
yeah, like you need to light a fire under Mahomes even more. I mean, that's just the crazy thing.
You don't think he remembers going to Tampa last time he was there and how he's running for his life and those guys that were all over him? And then he hears Shaq Barrett saying that that's the same offensive line. We're going to have a coming out party against this particular team. We'll see. One other thing with the offensive line, or with the Chiefs offense, you talked about some injuries that they're dealing with. So the element of there is improved play that everybody can improve across the board and get better. It's obviously the case. You can always improve. But is there a concern that the level of play is because, Trey Smith can't do some of the things athletically he did last year because the ankle is hampering him, that Orlando Brown is, dealing with the knee injury, and that limits somebody who was already limited athletically and being able to move laterally, and maybe limits a little bit of his, even ability to stop a rusher, coming straight at him or whatever that might be, to where, if that's the case, how much expected improvement can happen week to week if it's not just simply an execution thing, if it's this is the level they can execute at based on the injuries that they're suffering from.
I mean, I think particularly from the run game, I feel like some of the issues were, and I think you even mentioned it earlier, was there's some predictability right now. They did not surprise the Colts, and Andy Reid gave up the game. I mean, he said, "Hey, the Colts had a good game plan against us." I mean, yeah, the Colts were prepared for everything the Chiefs were going to do on the ground, and I don't think that there was necessarily a ton of creativity there as far as the run game goes. The other issue that I've had is that, especially you look at the percentage of the time that the ball's going to Clyde when he's in the game. They've had some games when it's been close to 50%.
Really?
I mean, to the point where if Clyde's in the game and you're a defense, you should expect the ball's going to him because it's either going to him on the ground or in the air. And if you can narrow your focus that much and just focus on Clyde when he's in there, I mean, you're going to make some plays. And so they've got to. I think they have to vary that up a little bit. But I think you're going to see some new looks this week. I think you're going to see some things on the ground. I think they're going to do some things differently, some plays that they haven't shown yet. And if that can surprise the Bucs, then I think they'll have some success.
Are the wide receivers not doing their job right now? Is that part of the issue, that they're not getting open, they're not winning matchups? This is the Chiefs without Tyreek Hill. This is what happens. Are you seeing that when you watch the game back and the All-22 and things like that of okay, yeah, there's going to be some issues because these wide receivers aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing?
I don't know if it's that necessarily, as much as it is still, obviously, you got a lot of guys who are trying to figure out what they're doing and learning the offense and all of this. I think you certainly saw probably a few plays, and even veterans and guys who've been around for a while who maybe weren't doing what they were supposed to do on every single snap. I mean, that can be a problem. But I still contend, and I could be completely wrong, and Andy Reid may just say, hey, you're full of hooey. I thought Patrick Mahomes in the first half spent way too much time looking downfield. I mean, the eyes just looked like they were just doing nothing but looking for big plays.
Wasn't that the game plan, though? Do you think
it may
the game
very
plan
well
was,
have been the game plan was to get these guys down, take some shots early, and get these guys and put them away. And if that was the case, it was a terrible, terrible game plan.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it was a good game plan. I think that was part of it. I think it was we're going to look second level. We're going to look over the top. We're going to do some of those things. Run the ball certain ways, maybe not as exotic or as creative, but we're going to get some chunk plays here. Because early in games, Patrick Mahomes is not one to turn down a little swing pass to Edwards-Helaire or take 7 or 8 yards early in the game. That was second down of the first possession. That has typically been Mahomes will just take the short play, let's get rolling. He's not somebody that, even though in his career he's had a tendency to turn down the easy stuff to go and make plays to the next level and the next level. Early in the game, it's one of those to where, okay, this is the play, this is what we do. This is, all right, Juju Smith-Schuster, 6 yards here. Okay, Kelsey's running a little curl right there. Okay, we got Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield, swing it over there. Let's just keep the thing moving. But he turned it down. It was wide open, turned it down because he was looking for the next level, and I think that was game plan. I think that's part of what they wanted to do against the Colts.
And when we were talking about the brutal efficiency of what this offense looked like in the preseason, it wasn't because they had 3-play 75-yard drives. It was because they were having 10-play 75-yard drives and just brutally moving the ball downfield. You do that against the Buccaneers, you're going to win. I mean, if Mahomes runs for his life and scrambles for 500 yards looking for guys downfield and gets no pass protection, you're not going to beat the Buccaneers.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when, you saw the pass protection was breaking down. And maybe they adjusted in the second half, but they only scored 3 points. They got down in field goal range a couple times, but you got to punch that in when you're at the 2-yard line on offense to score. But he is now back-to-back weeks kicked a field goal on 4th and goal from the 1 and 4th and goal from the 2, which is also an indication of what Andy Reid thinks of his offense right now. That he's choosing those instead of having trust that we'll get it in. We're going to be able to score here. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get Matt's thoughts on the Chiefs and Bucs on Sunday and a score if he has one in mind or if he wants to throw a dart blindfolded at what the score might be. More Zone rolling along next. Hanging out with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. It's The Zone, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That's about the best my French accent can do.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, hanging out with Matt Derrick, heading up until noon with Matt. Chiefs Digest. We'll talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer after that. Chiefs press conferences. Andy Reid, Travis Kelce in the 1 o'clock hour. Cuts before the show is over as well. Do want to pass this along today in Tampa. Todd Bowles talking with the media, saying that limited in practice today. Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, and Donovan Smith, they were all limited. He calls them all game time decisions on Sunday for each of Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, and Donovan Smith. Bashad Perriman is out, will not play this weekend, and he's had the last 2 weeks combined 100 yards and a touchdown. Not each, but combined in those a couple of games. So he's been somebody that Tom Brady has been throwing to. They get Mike Evans back. They may get Chris Godwin and Julio Jones back as well, but those guys are going to be game time decisions along with Donovan Smith, limited in practice all week. Matt, obviously that can change things one way or another if all three of those guys play or none of those guys play, but what do you think happens on Sunday if you've got an idea or a feel or a complete and total guess and shot in the dark and maybe a score in mind?
This is a very difficult game for me to handicap because I truly feel like it could go either way. I mean, I think you got two teams in similar situations coming off disappointing losses a week ago. Their defenses are playing very well, but the offenses are coming back from 1 week games. Calculating everything in, certainly with what is happening off the field in Tampa for the players and the coaches, everything that's going on there, it's home field advantage. You feel like on a Sunday night you should be going with the Buccaneers, and I have felt that way all week. But closer to game time we get, the more I think that this game, I feel like that there's a little bit more momentum on the Chiefs side, and I think that they're going to pull it off. I don't feel like this is going to be a run up down the field. I think it's going to be the defenses battling it out. I think the Chiefs eke it out 23-19.
23-19. Movie reference. Anybody? Beards?
I got it.
There's a zone movie reference, everybody. 23-19. That's a 23-19.
Jason, you have kids. You should know this one.
You have kids, Jason. What's a 23-19?
Is it Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
It's a code for whenever something from the human world has infiltrated Monsters Incorporated.
Oh, Monsters, Inc. I should know that. I should have known that one.
You've seen Monsters, Inc., right?
I have not. Actually.
Really?
No.
That legit might be on the list in like kids movie territory. Legitimately good.
I'm disappointed in myself not knowing that. As soon as you said Monsters, Inc., I'm like, oh yeah, duh, it's 23-19. You're right. Everything shuts down at 23-19. You're right. My bad. Harrison Butker not practice.
Turn on your mic, Beards.
I don't think he's playing.
Also, MVS was back with the helmet. This is per Teicher.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sometimes Beards has his real big burnout moments on air, but they very rarely happen in the talkback and just totally derail the show.
It was one of them.
That was one of them.
Butker's not back to kicking with full range yet, so no.
Matthew Wright.
Matthew Wright, I think, will be
three kickers in 4 weeks.
Scale 1 to 100. Level of confidence in Matthew Wright.
10. Beards said 10 in our ear.
Beards has been doing the best show out of all of us today.
Beards is on fire.
Matt, you're the man. Thank you, sir. Kendall Gammon next.
Sports Radio 8. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So what we had planned for this segment, we got into Jack Bleep of what we were going to do here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We head up until 2 o'clock. Let's talk to Kendall Gammon, Freeman Health System, centered around you. Freeman Health System, your local hospital joining your circle of trust, presents Kendall Gammon each and every week, along with Crown Automotive in Lawrence. They are your Lawrence new and certified pre-owned Toyota and Volkswagen dealership near Kansas City, Olathe, and Topeka. Experience the Crown difference at crownautomotive.com. Kendall, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
I am doing just fine. Looking forward to the game this weekend with the Chiefs and Bucs. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with the Chiefs, but I wanted to first of all congratulate the Gorillas from unranked 3 weeks ago to number 7 in the country now. They are a rising rocket right now through the rankings.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that. And yeah, a tough game though last week.
Yeah.
14-13 over Emporia State, and then you had Northwest, which UCO upset. I mean, the MIAA just top to bottom is a rough conference, and hopefully both teams. I say this: the Gorillas and Northwest can win this week, so you can have a great showdown next week in Pittsburgh. But thanks for mentioning them. It's fun to be a part of, obviously.
Yeah, I was really hoping that I was watching the game, keeping track of Northwest last week. I was hoping that it would be a couple of 5-0 teams matching up next week down in Pittsburgh. But still, I mean, both take care of business. You should have a top 15 matchup in the country down in Pittsburgh next week at 2 o'clock. So that should be a lot of fun regardless. So
I think actually that game may be sold out already, or it's getting close. So if people want tickets, they need to be getting on it sooner than later. But yeah, it should be a fun one.
Absolutely. Kendall Gammon is our guest. Okay, it wasn't a fun one for the Chiefs and the Colts in Indy. What do you take away, and what did you see in the surprising 20-17 loss to the Colts?
You know what, Jason, I think KC played a C-minus game and still had 3 or 4 opportunities to win. So I try to see that as a positive. But those are the games that you can't let go. I appreciate the fact that several players on the team, several stars, including Kelsey, including Mahomes, I mean, they stepped up and said, it was me. This was on me. I should have done better. And, of course, that starts at the top with Andy Reid. But that's one of those games, and it'd be interesting to watch the Colts throughout the year and see if they turn into the team that many thought they would be in terms of challenging for the division crown and getting into the playoffs. But as they say, it's on to Tampa Bay, and that's a whole other game in itself. But some of the Chiefs things I didn't like from the Chiefs, the running game just wasn't there. When you have 12 touches by Clyde Edwards-Helaire and you only have 39 total yards, 0 rushing, that's an issue from the running back position, and probably I would say from the offensive line position as well.
I was on Sunday Sound Off with 41 Action News on Sunday, and Tim Grunhard was a part of it. And he said something pretty interesting because, the takeaway from the game, we look at how well the defense played and then the struggles of the offense, and the special teams had certainly had a day that left a lot to be desired. And he said, when he played football, it was always the mantra, you can't lose 2 phases. You might be able to lose 1, but you can't lose 2 phases of the game in the NFL. And he said, just plain and simple, the Chiefs lost 2 phases, and you lose the game against an inferior team. You win 2 of the 3. You can afford to lose 1 phase when you're playing against a team that you're better than, but a team that you are not as good as or on par with. Obviously, it'd be best to win all 3, but you can't lose 2 of the 3, and the Chiefs did that.
Well, yeah, and the special teams I know you're talking about, it was just ugly, for lack of a better word. And Jake Tope talked about it, that, some of those things just happen. They still have confidence in Sky Moore. But I will say, as I was watching it, I'm curious your thoughts too, but as I was watching it, when they fumbled that punt, and then a couple plays later they're in the end zone, I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. You just gave a team that you could have taken confidence away from with that 3 and out, and now you just let them back in and gave them the thought of, okay, well, maybe we can get something going here. And that's what you saw the rest of the day. And, for whatever reason, the Chiefs were just off a little bit. And lots of times, guys running free down the field offensively for the Chiefs, but just needed another fraction of a second to allow Patrick Mahomes to deliver the ball, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I gave you credit earlier this week because our conversation last week, we were talking about the Colts, and one of your at least analysis of the game and not necessarily matchup, but a bigger picture view was, a team like the Colts that's struggling, that's coming off such a bad loss to the Jags, and a Chiefs team that just beat the Chargers. Chiefs are feeling good. The Colts are trying to figure out what's going on. And you said, early on, if you get up early, you punch them in the mouth early, you got a team that's struggling that'll start to doubt themselves and they might just go away. But don't let them have early momentum and early excitement that, okay, this is the team we thought we would be. Now let's go play our football. And I thought about that when Sky Moore fumbled the punt and they scored. I thought, well, this was the chance to do exactly what Kendall was talking about. You go 3 and out, you get the ball right back. If you go and score, then it's one of those to where you might just be off to the races in that game. But that one mistake that results in a 3-yard touchdown drive sort of changed a lot in that game.
Yeah, it really did. And again, as you look at the stats, anytime you lose the turnover battle and one of those in the special teams and it leads to a touchdown, I forget what the percentages are, but we used to get them read to us each and every day when I was at the Mill for things like that happening. But it was really, really high. You're really behind the 8 ball when you give up points in that fashion. And that's what they did. I thought the defense played well for 3.5 quarters, and I think it was yesterday that Spagnuolo talked about just that. They played well for quite a while, but he said even with, not phantom call, but whatever happened with Chris Jones, which is another subject, the fact is they still had a chance with 4.5 minutes to shut them down and get off the field, and they didn't. So in his mind, they didn't get the job done either, and I appreciate that from a coordinator. And quite honestly, I appreciate Spagnuolo in terms of how he talks, because most coaches, understandably, don't give that much information. I think he gives a lot. But you know what? It is what it is. You deal with it. It happens, and you got to move on. You cannot let one bad game lead to another bad game.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon, he's presented by Freeman Health System and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. You mentioned the special team, so you're a guy that spent so much of your career in that phase of the game and different things that took place. The fake field goal has been talked about, and Dave Toub said yesterday, and I appreciate that he was a little candid in that. I don't know what the percentage breakdown was, but the question was, how much was it? This is something you saw on film. You got the look you wanted. It's something you practiced. And how much was it maybe just a lack of faith in the kicker? And he said, well, it wasn't that. It was a little that. It was a little bit of but it was really something we saw on film and practice for and things like that. It could have been easy for Dave Toub to go, it had nothing to do with Amendola. It was all about what we saw. We got the look. But I think it had to be a combination of it's a 41-yard field goal, and Butker would have put it between the uprights. You would expect to put 3 points on the board, along with something they had practiced and maybe something they saw, and so they went with that call. They just didn't execute it. But I did appreciate that Dave Toub said, even if it was a small amount that played a role, a small amount in the fact that they didn't really have a lot of faith in Amendola in that. And that's tough to do when you feel like, do I trust my kicker to put it between the uprights? Because it kind of changes your thought process, your mindset when you're going down on these drives and to win these close games.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I will say this, though. Generally over my career, Jason, each and every week, you had some type of gadget play in the special teams dialed up. If you saw some things, if it presented itself, then you would think about it. And maybe they thought about it more this week because of Amendola, what's going on, and how the first kick had gone. That being said, had the look not been there that they expected and not been the way they needed to actually run the fake, I don't think they would have run it because and Amendola is not a bad kicker. He missed that one. I understand that. But a kicker, 41 yards, that should be close to automatic in this day and age. So I think they would have kicked it potentially had that not been there. But it was, and then when they lined up, and then when I say been there, it's what they saw on the previous field goal and how they were going after things. So when it lined up this time, I think Coach Toub said that, they were lined up a little bit different, and Tommy didn't get the ball out of his hands quite soon enough. He even mentioned the fact that he wished he had seen it a different way, but he just felt like he wasn't sure. There was a little indecision, then he threw it, and at that point it was too late. And again, those are the things that happen. Now, I'll say the one good thing about that is it does put other teams on notice. It's like, okay, now we've got to watch out for these things as well. And while it may not happen, it does waste practice time of the other teams preparing for things like that.
Has there? We hear, about fake field goals or fake punts that you get out there, you're ready to kick it, and then all of a sudden you see something you can audible into, a fake or something like that. Has there? I'm assuming it could be the other way, right? So you go out there and you say, okay, this is what we're going to call. We're going to run this fake field goal to Noah Gray and Tommy. You're going to do what we've been practicing, and if they don't get the look that they wanted to see, can you audible into just a regular kick and say, okay, Matt, now you're kicking it. Okay, I know we called a fake, but be ready to go and kick the damn thing.
Yeah, exactly right. They have some type of call, and depending on whether it's there or not, because you can go out there with a fake called and then you call it off, or you can go out there normal. If you absolutely give something, they could potentially call a fake. It normally doesn't happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, you go out there and everybody knows that it's planned to be a fake, and that's what you're doing, unless there's a code word said, and that calls it off, and you go ahead and kick it. So that's generally how it happens.
Kendall Gammon is our guest. He's presented by Freeman Health System and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. If Harrison Butker cannot go this week, the kicker that they signed is named Matthew Wright. It would be the third kicker in 4 games for this Chiefs team. How difficult is that to adjust from the snap to the hold to the kicker to all of that stuff when you just got maybe a little different timing, just a small little different mechanism between those 3? How difficult is it to adjust 3 kickers in 4 weeks?
Only difficulty there, Jason, is the kicker himself dealing with it because he hasn't been with that operation. Winchester and Tommy, Townsend, they have the operation down pat. It's going very well. Winchester's one of the best long snappers in the league. He's given the laces most every time, so I can't say enough about him and what he's doing. People have already forgotten me, but they'll definitely forget about me with him being in there, which is a good thing. So they've got that operation going on, and it's just up to the kicker, right, to get used to it. And they will get plenty of reps this week because they have their period, and then they've got the rest of the practice. And you don't have to kick to get used to it. You just have to line up there and go through the motions and step. And I know they're doing that throughout the week.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon here in the zone. You said one of the things that you really like to hear was the players taking accountability. Travis Kelce said it was his fault. Patrick Mahomes said he made mistakes. Chris Jones said it was on him. And Creed Humphrey talking about the issues that the offensive line had. And so everybody stepping up and saying, well, actually, it's our fault. It's what we did. We're the issue. Tommy Townsend saying, I should have thrown the ball earlier. I saw a look and it wasn't what I was actually thinking it was and should have got rid of the ball. And so everybody's taking accountability. There's no, finger pointing or blaming. And I was listening to the Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce podcast on Wednesday night, and Jason Kelce was saying essentially that he was asking Travis, all right, what are you guys doing? And in practice, how do you guys respond? And he's like, just get back in there. Travis said, just get back. Can't wait to get back. And then, look at everything you did. You got to self-scout. You got to look at yourself and look at the film, and you got to have an honest, real assessment of what you did. And it's not about, what your teammate did. And Jason said, well, that's the only way to respond, because if you've got a team that starts to even look around and say, well, this guy didn't do that, he's like, that thing festers and you start to lose game after game. And Travis Kelce was immediate and was like, no, it's not what we do. Everybody takes accountability. And so that's encouraging, to hear that, to hear Jason say, well, if this is happening, you're toast. And for Travis to go, no, everybody's taking an honest assessment. There's no, Sky Moore made a mistake. We go and pick him up and say, we're all here together. You're not the only one. I dropped a touchdown. This guy did that. This guy did that. We all do this together. And so that gives me a little more confidence, Kendall, in a response this weekend against Tampa and not letting one game beat you twice.
I would agree. You said it great, and that's what you want. And I said it when we started this interview, which was it starts with Big Red and how he does. I mean, you've been in those press conferences. I mean, he takes responsibility, as he should, responsibility for everything all the time. Oftentimes when he really shouldn't. But that's what he believes, because he's leading the charge. And I think anytime that you decide that somebody else is the problem instead of yourself is when you start to really have issues, and that's just not the thing with Kansas City. This locker room is about as good as they get. It's young on defense, but in general, they've got a lot of good leadership in there. It's crazy to say that Patrick and Kelce, it's easier at 10 years, but those guys are the veterans in there. Those are the type of guys that you want leading the charge, and they're doing a good job. I expect them to come out and play well this week. People have asked, was it a kind of a distraction with everything going on this week and where they're going to play. And what they said was exactly right, which they're getting on a plane. They're going to go somewhere and play anyhow. Tampa Bay, however, going down to Miami, changing headquarters, practicing there, whatever, dealing with your families, wondering what's going on with the weather, that played a big part. There's no doubt about that. I had that issue happen with me when I was with the Steelers, and we couldn't practice outside my rookie year because it was snowy. And Cowher, we came back and said, listen, I hope you guys are going to handle this the right way. We can't practice, study, this and that. Said to get out of there. And, of course, it was like school and recess. School was out early, and we just ran down the hall screaming, loving life. But we went to Chicago that week, and we just got our butts handed to us. I mean, it does make a difference. So I'm curious to see this game.
The kicking part of it, I mentioned 3 different kickers in 4 games if Harrison can't go this weekend.
Right.
That's got to be I guess it's different when Spags, says we got to get on a plane no matter what, whether we're going to Minnesota or going to Tampa. But the difference for the kicking game is you're either in a dome or you're outside, kicking on grass. How big of a difference is that in practicing, or these guys are so good that surface may not make that big of a difference? If it's nice outside, the weather's going to be beautiful in Tampa, after it was, crazy this whole week, it's going to be clear and 75 and no wind really. So perfect conditions, but how much is there that extra prep of, well, we're either going to be on turf or grass? It's not like which stadium and it's the same surface.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's a question that's worth asking. And the fact is, most people would think, oh, well, you want to be inside on turf. Being inside is certainly that, because the only air you got to worry about is the air conditioning. But the turf is actually longer inside with the field turf, whereas if you're down at Tampa, if it's nice weather, that grass is cut so low that it's, in my opinion, it's easier to kick off that than it is inside with field turf, which is something I don't think a lot of people would expect. But again, these kickers, when they get to this level, they've played on so many different surfaces, either great manicured natural grass fields or the field turf, which are what they are. They're good either way. They can do both and practice on both in Kansas City. Quite honestly, I say that you actually can't get the exact look of what a turf field would be like, even if you go outside Kansas City, because the grass is different and they just don't cut it as low as they do in Tampa and also Miami for that matter.
Kendall Gammon is our guest. All right, Kendall, last one for you. I've said all week I don't really have a feel for this game. Do you have a feel and maybe a score in mind of what you think might happen this weekend down in Tampa?
Yeah, that defense of Tampa is good, obviously, that defensive backfield. If they get pressure on Mahomes and get it going, that could be tough. I still see the Chiefs coming out with a victory somewhere in the 23-13 range, 23-16. I don't think it's going to be a huge high-scoring game because of that. And we'll see. I mean, that defense is good, and if you don't believe me, just ask some of the defensive linemen there at Tampa. They'll tell you how good they are also. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kansas City offensively steps up to meet that challenge, because make no mistake, they heard those words, and they're using that as bulletin board material. I'm
glad you brought that up. I wrote it down, and I skimmed right over it, so I know that I said that was the last one, but does that take place in locker rooms when a Shaq Barrett said, we're going to have a coming-out party against this offensive line? We got a chance to really do some really good things against these guys. They hear that, right?
Oh, there's no question about it. We say bulletin board material. It's not always put on the bulletin board, but sometimes it is. But in general, you talk about it, I mean, you kind of chuckle about it a little bit, but it's one of those chuckles like, okay, we'll see. And I think they would never admit to it because that's not how they hold themselves. But Mahomes, Kelsey, that whole offensive unit, I think they heard it, and it's not something they really care for. So, again, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, Mahomes yesterday or Wednesday answered the question to respond to Shaq Barrett with 6 seconds of, I believe in my guys up front. I believe in those 5 guys in front of me. That was it. It was only a 6-second clip, and that told me all I needed to know about Mahomes' irritation with hearing that and maybe what that would mean in the locker room.
And not only that, but the tone in which he said it, Jason.
That's right.
It was different. It was different than some of his playful tones. You could tell he changed his demeanor completely, even while he just said that 6-second clip.
Kendall Gammon, our guest here in the Zone. Kendall, great stuff. Really appreciate the time. Best of luck to Pitt State this weekend to see if we can get a top 15 matchup next week down in Pittsburgh, and we'll see what happens with the Chiefs and Bucs, and look forward to our conversation next week. Thank you, Kendall. I appreciate it, man.
You bet. Make it a great day.
Hopefully that is the case coming up on Sunday. There's Kendall Gammon, Freeman Health System, centered around you. Freeman Health System, your local hospital, joining your circle of trust, and also Crown Automotive in Lawrence. They're your Lawrence, new and certified pre-owned Toyota and Volkswagen dealership near Kansas City, Olathe, and Topeka. Experience the Crown difference at crownautomotive.com. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hang out with Mick Shaffer. We'll hear from the Chiefs later on in the show at the 1 o'clock hour, and the cuts as well before the show is over. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've tried a lot of different things to get these. There's a couple squirrels that keep wanting to eat the tomatoes and my apples.
Oh, I got it. Don't plant tomatoes.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thank you to Kendall Gammon joining us. Talking some Chiefs football. He's got 23-13. Matt Derrick has 23-19. I'm looking forward to our predictions that will all include 23.
The number 23.
And Beards will be 2-3.
That's right.
I have those numbers.
He will be the getting the score, the losing team first. Putting the losing team's score first. You guys lost 2-3?
That's what Jason Kelsey said the other day.
Yeah, he said
17-20.
You guys lost to the Colts 17-20.
What is wrong?
Then Kelsey dropped an F-bomb. Travis being
I think he's mad at him saying the lower
Yeah,
score.
that's what it was about, for sure.
Bleep! I figured you'd say that.
Yeah.
It's 20-17, you idiot!
We played okay. We deserved to lose, but I'm really mad about how you said the score.
Why are you getting things wrong, Jason?
Beards, can you mark that for me?
Yeah, but I said it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I was talking in the third person.
Third person, yeah.
You know, I hate when Jason gets things wrong.
You're sort of the Ricky of sports talk.
That's right. That's right. Jason loves when Jason does sports talk. Jason loves talking. I don't know about you, but Jason is a fan of Jason's show.
Beard, can you just break the F8 button off? just wail on that one for a little bit. I don't want to lose any of that.
Was it
content?
Was it the press conference after he broke the stolen base record when he said Ricky is now the greatest of all time?
So good.
It's so amazing. I love it, man. He invented the popping the collar. When you watch his home runs, as he's going around first base, he's doing this. He's popping the jersey collar
He was
to
the
shoulder.
first to do that?
I've never seen anybody do it before. It became popular, right? But in the 80s, and like when he hits a home run, he's rounding first base and he's doing this to his jersey. I don't know why, but I'm like, oh, wow. He was way ahead of the curve at that thing. Ricky was way ahead of the curve, and that's when he would have said, Ricky's way ahead of the curve. Ricky knows Ricky's way ahead of the curve. He's very excited about this. Did you see Deion Sanders' son?
No.
Not a guy named Deion Sanderson.
That's
Deion. Did you see him?
Sanders.
Yeah, he's a local firefighter. He's a great guy, just a great guy. No, Deion Sanders' son, who's a really good quarterback. And
in high school still or college?
No, college. He plays for Deion.
That's right. I think he's my oldest age. Is he like a freshman?
He's younger. Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's not draft eligible yet. But people think that he's got a chance. Like he's
at Jackson State.
Yep, and he's been really awesome. And he had like the first half. I think he had like 5 or 6 touchdowns. And so he's sitting in the fourth quarter, and I don't remember his number. It might be 1. Like his number might be 1 or 12. Let's just go 12. It's easier. And they were interviewing him on the sideline. He goes, 12's got good receivers. Well, you know what? When 12's offensive line, really helps 12 out. So, as long as 12's got help around him, 12's going to be fine. Like it is Deion. It's Deion. Deion's gonna be fine. Deion's good. Oh, Deion's this. Deion's that. So his son is even going the Deion route talking. Man, it's interesting.
He was on an episode of the Manning Show.
Deion or his son?
Both.
Oh,
were on it. The Peyton Manning Show on ESPN Plus. Peyton's Places. Yes.
Yeah.
And would have been like a sophomore, junior in high school at the time, running routes. And against his dad. So yeah, I remember him. And are they good? Jackson State?
Yeah, they're good.
I should probably be betting on them.
Yeah, no, they're
betting on
they're
everybody.
pretty good. They're pretty good. And now there's talk about whether Deion gets a promotion, like if somebody at a Power 5 is going to hire Deion.
Yeah.
And then the question for Deion is, so then do I take that, or do I stay here and live up to what I had talked about by going to Jackson State of doing the most good at an HBCU and giving more attention to that, or do I get more attention as I can coach
internal
anywhere.
tug of war for Deion, right? He loves the attention.
Exactly. I can coach at a Power 5. I can coach anywhere. Now, go to the SEC, Deion. Now everybody's going to be talking about Deion in the SEC. They're already talking about him at Jackson State because they're also winning. If they sucked, they would just be like, well, this experiment didn't work. But he's recruiting.
And they're still
FCS,
players. Right? They haven't made the jump or anything to FBS. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, they are. They're pretty good. I do wonder, like, if there are actual, like, which I would guess there would be, like, not only just interest, but like offers of like, hey, we want to hire you. Like, what does Deion do? Like, if the job is good enough, like if it's not Toledo, nothing against Toledo, but if it's not taking the Toledo job,
Right.
if it's like, hey, Arkansas is open.
I was gonna say,
Sam Pittman goes somewhere and Arkansas opens up and says, hey, Deion.
Could he make the jump? Would a school pull the trigger on him? A school that's a a Power 5 school.
Well,
I can see Group of 5,
Yeah.
and I can see him saying, "No, I'm staying here."
Well, what
and
about,
maybe waiting until an SEC, an ACC team comes calling?
Just popped in my mind because the coach just got fired.
Nebraska?
Nope.
Oh,
Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Georgia,
Right there,
Atlanta
Georgia.
area. Georgia Tech, Power 5. Tap into Deion, getting
bye triple option.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Prime ain't running that.
Get the players around Georgia to maybe go to Georgia Tech over Georgia because Deion's now
few
recruiting
guys.
Yeah,
in Georgia,
some decent
I've heard,
guys there.
yeah.
I mean, if I'm Georgia Tech, I'm hiring them. Like that's who I'm going after. I'm going after Deion to hire. There was also the story that they fired the coaching staff and then they had security escort them out, and which is odd. Like. Maybe it was contentious. I don't know. But you typically don't see, like, we're going to fire the coach and you have to leave now. We're locking down your office. You're escorted out. Get off the premises. It's weird.
Yeah, usually if there is, like in like corporate life, if there's any sort of like hint or possibility of any sort of like, not like violence, but just confrontation.
Well, you got to fire
usually
somebody on a Friday.
It's the HR guy. We're just going to walk you out.
Just for whatever reason, popped into my head is the John Sherman press conference and Dayton trying to get in the room and two security guards, one on each arm, is carrying him and his legs are kicking. Let me in! You'll never take me alive, John! JJ can't hack it! It's my team! My team, I say! I don't know why I just pictured that, but this would be great.
Just say I don't think it happened.
But that would be amazing.
I think it did, actually.
I'm just picturing that in my. Maybe that's Mike Matheny. Maybe they do that with Mike Matheny at the end of the season.
That might actually be Cal
Bob
Eldred.
Nightingale? Was that the tweet Bob Nightingale put out?
John Heyman's story?
John Heyman's story. That's what it was.
Yeah, really. I mean, like, you're pretty close. Yeah,
Bob Nightingale's the one that had the news that Mike Matheny was going to be hired as the head coach once Ned Yost retired.
Head coach is a
coach,
weird
huh?
way to
Manager.
say that.
You know
but,
what I meant. Manager.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Head manager. He's going to be the
Hold on, you can't tell me to start correcting you more often and then say, you know what I meant. Because I did. I also said that Marcus Mariota wasn't a Colts quarterback.
But I do appreciate that.
That's
You're
what
right.
I'm here for.
I
He's
appreciate
going to
it.
be the head coach
Thank
of
you.
the team. He's wear a suit every game. He's not wearing the uniform.
It should switch. Baseball managers should wear uniform, and football coaches should wear the baseball manager's suit.
There you
football
go.
coach's uniform. Basketball coach's uniform.
I want to see football coach's uniform.
Basketball
Pads and everything.
Just put them all in uniforms.
I want Bill Self wearing the white on white KU jerseys.
No like T-shirts
No
underneath.
T-shirt
either.
underneath.
I want Bob Huggins wearing
A
a
West
jersey
Virginia
with
And
no
it's
T-shirt.
Got to be tucked in and everything.
Yeah.
These jerseys keep getting tighter every year. Also, you can't be tugging on them.
You
or
got to
anything.
do that. Socks. You got to wear the shoes.
Well, Bob's got to roll it up like they do now. The
Oh
tight,
yeah. Who's the guy for
Short leg.
Houston? The guy for Houston that rolls up his shorts all the way up to
They
the
all
top.
do. They all do.
But the
now.
guy from Houston is like ridiculously high.
What Huggins is going to do is he's just going to pull them up to his belly button and
Just
then
above the navel.
Just let him hang out up there.
right above the navel.
Mick, I'm guessing that this sentence largely for people is followed by something disastrous, but I would like to read a tweet that you tweeted out more than 10 years ago.
Oh no!
Whoa.
Careful. That was the Metro Sports days where longer leash.
This Ned Yost guy will never make it. Fire him now. There's no success in his future.
How have you uncovered this?
I got a text from Adam Dravetta. Said,
boy.
this conversation is a reminder of an all-time Mick Shaffer tweet. Now, I want to know how Adam remembered this. Here's what I'm going to tell you. This has 8 retweets, 6 likes. This is 10/14/11. This was a 2011 tweet.
My Twitter infancy.
On Twitter for BlackBerry, no less.
Wow.
The tweet reads, Guy just gave me the score of a game with a losing team score first. I beat him to death with a flashlight.
Yep. I remember that one.
And that's actually true. It's a true story. Now,
It was a flashlight.
the jury
Flash.
the jury
Flashlight.
Flash.
A flashlight.
the jury ruled in Mick Schaefer's favor.
Yeah, that's why I felt like it was okay
So,
to read a tweet
I remember
from 10 years
people
ago.
responding to me saying, that's justified.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't go to jail for that. You do not. Everybody's going to understand what that is for. But the John Heyman story.
Yeah, you want that also?
Yes, please, since
Sure.
that's what I was asking about. I thought it was Bob Nightingale since he had the Mike Matheny thing, but John Heyman's story says what?
He went manager situations through the league, and for the Royals, it's just this blurb. Mike Matheny was hired by Dayton Moore, who's now gone. With players hoping for a change, it's hard to imagine he'll be back. And I don't know that we've heard a phrase quite as straightforward as with players hoping for a change.
No kidding.
I believe it. We've gotten some reports of like bad vibes in the clubhouse. What I think is funny from that is if that really is exactly as simple as it is. Players are over it. They're hoping for a change. I'm sure that extends to guys like Cal Eldred, I would assume. If Dayton Moore was still the president of baseball operations for this team, this change is not happening for another year in all likelihood. And I don't know what it would have taken for him to fire Mike Matheny and Cal Eldred, because those three dudes were tight. And I think that maybe John Sherman also realized, along with all the other things we talked about on press conference day, I think he realized that you can't break up the band and kind of piecemeal something new. Like there needed to be a hard reset, which I anticipate there being.
I can't place the name or the coach, but I believe there was a coach that was fired because he refused to fire one of his assistant coaches. And so they said, well, then you're gone too. And he said, okay, then give me the buyout. But I'm not firing him. It's not his fault, whatever. I don't think that's necessarily what John Sherman did. But I wonder if John Sherman preemptively was like, well, Dayton, you're not going to be willing to make these decisions.
Right.
So we're not going to have you be the one that can influence these decisions. JJ's taking over. He's taken over. We're combining those jobs yet again, and that'll be JJ now because we need to clean house. We need Mike gone. We need Cal gone. We need to figure out the pitching issues in the minor leagues, the analytics. And JJ is going to be the one that's in charge of that. I'm not going to get into this whole back and forth of you need to fire Mike Matheny. I'm the owner. Yeah, but you want me to do my job. Let me do my job. Yeah, but okay, fine. Then we just got to move on. I'm going to preemptively strike this. JJ's in charge. We're cleaning house.
I would expect the house cleaning to come the offseason and not do it in the midseason, which is always awkward.
I mean, Wednesday the season's over, so it might be a week from today as the offseason.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and it's not like, okay, it's end of May and you're 19-41 or whatever. And okay, we're making a change. Just from what I got from that John Sherman press conference is that he's no nonsense about it. He's ready for change. He's ready to do it now. He wants a buzz around this team when they do look to get that stadium built downtown, and he's not going to waste any time.
Yeah. And I think that's why he made the move.
And look, if you want to move on, it's the best time to do it.
Well, and I think that's why you introduced JJ then, is because it gives JJ 2 weeks to get all of his ducks in a row, everything in line, figure out who he wants as the next managerial candidates, all of that stuff. And then the season's over. Now you can go and make the move. Instead of waiting for the season to be over, you make the move on Dayton. Now JJ takes over. JJ, then figures all these things out and then moves on from Mike Matheny. You've got a 2-week head start for JJ to put everything together, figure out who are the guys he wants to take over, and at the end of the season, you clean house and you turn the page to the next group of guys, and then you see what happens in the hot stove. If any big, moves are made this offseason, or JJ's really going to put his stamp on the organization. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up at 1 o'clock along with Travis Kelce. More Zone right after this.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So sweaty, mom's spaghetti or whatever the line is.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll hear from the Chiefs coming up at the 1 o'clock hour. Andy Reid, Travis Kelce will be talking today. They get set for the Bucs on Sunday. We'll throw our scores out later on in the show before we get to the cuts. We'll see if any of us have the Chiefs winning. We'll find out. Ken Swanson has the Bucs winning. Kendall Gammon has the Chiefs. Matt Derrick has the Chiefs as well. So we'll see with that game coming up on Sunday. So we talked and started the show, and it has been the main topic of conversation today throughout the national media, last night as well, and it was how awful the Tua Tagovailoa injury was with the head and the neck, and then the fencing position that he went into, fencing response right after that had happened, like immediately after that happened, and you knew something serious was going on, and there was nobody, except for the halftime broadcast crew of Amazon, there was nobody that separated that from Sunday. Like, the immediate response is, we just saw what happened on Sunday. People laughed and joked about it being a back injury and an ankle for him to come back in. And now a few days later, he has this happen as well. Like, it was so easy to connect. And I don't think there's any way to really look at last night and say, well, they're completely independent of each other, even if they say, well, yeah, but he was cleared and it was a back and an ankle, because people saw what they saw. They saw his head, whiplash and, have the, trying to shake it out and then losing his balance. Even if it just simply was innocent and he didn't have a concussion, it's still difficult to separate those two from Sunday to Thursday when it's just 4 days in between, 3 days in between.
Something from just a little bit ago, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Alan Sills was on NFL Network and said Tua was checked for concussion symptoms every day since Sunday. Points out independent neuro expert had to clear him once review is done, full results will be released publicly. I'm not necessarily willing to take all that at perfect face value, but just one thing that popped out there about 30 minutes or so ago.
Well, and that's the thing is they brought in the independent neurologist because they don't want somebody to have a conflict of interest of, this is the Bills. We need Tua to come back in the game. It's the Bills. Okay, it's different. We're not playing some random scrub team. We need Tua. If he has to miss the Bengals game, he missed the Bengals game, but that's not a Division I. Bring him back in. It is an independent neurologist. So I agree that the Players Association, as they are, and DeMarie Smith talking about and already opening up the investigation to see what happened, because more transparency is better. Here's what happened. We feel like because if the union comes out and says everything was followed, it's all good, he actually didn't have a concussion, then we move on. At least I would. Because I think the NFLPA is going to do what they can to try to figure out if the protocol was followed. And if it wasn't, it's the league's ass, and they have no problem, disagreeing with the league on things.
No, I mean, look, at this point, okay, we've heard, on Sunday he was evaluated, Monday through Wednesday. I mean, that's a big conspiracy theory at this point, right? If these doctors are all in on it. And look, we saw Patrick Mahomes leave for, was it concussion? Was it back? Was it neck? In a playoff game and never came back. Forget about, this is a big divisional game here in September. This was January on a 14-2 team looking to run it back and get back to a Super Bowl. They had way more, and I know it's different doctors, and there can be different scruples for each and every franchise, but they had way more reason to get him in there. And look, he was never diagnosed officially with a concussion.
I remember
he was in the concussion protocol. They never called it that.
Wasn't that whole week it was cloak and dagger? Yeah. Is he in the concussion protocol? Is he not? Did he have a concussion? Did he not have a concussion? Because he had said, because the guy had grabbed his neck.
They said he was in the concussion protocol. They never called it a concussion.
I don't think Andy Reid ever used the C word, even to say what it wasn't.
That was
the entire week.
Which C word are you talking about?
Yes, thanks.
A few of them.
The 10-letter C word.
If I would have really felt like making beer to the dump button, I really had every urge to just tell you a whole list of various C words it could have been.
Okay,
this one in context would be concussion.
Yes. It's a crocodile.
And that was worse than. He passed out on the field right?
He
was out.
He was unconscious.
Worse
and,
than Tua the first time. Sorry.
Yeah. So
as far as
Tua,
as
Mahomes, or what you're talking about? I'm sorry.
Mahomes going down was worse. It looked worse than Tua. Now it doesn't mean it was the first
Sunday.
time on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, Mahomes was knocked unconscious.
Remember we were talking about like, okay, if you hit a nerve, right? You know, they talked about that,
which is really what happened. I mean, the guy grabbed him by the neck. His head went one way, and it cut off the circulation or whatever, and he immediately blacked out. And then he came to, and Mahomes said, "What?" He was like, After that, I was fine. I was ready to go back in the game." But he had to go through all of the concussion protocol and everything from that point, and he didn't return to the game because an immediate. I think loss of consciousness is a no-go no matter what. He could have passed every single test, but if you lose consciousness on the field, it's a literal no-go. You are not allowed back in the game. That is, there's no player, no independent neurologist, no team, trainer, nothing that can do that. It is hard and fast. Loss of consciousness,
and
you're
look,
done.
I'm going to acknowledge that these NFL teams have a lot of money invested in these guys, and they would do maybe not the most appropriate things to get these guys back on the field. Okay, I think that still exists. But if we have 4 days of reports from an independent doctor on this, on one side, and the other side is people on Twitter saying, "Hey, that looked like a concussion," I'm going to side with the doctors. So the hit last night looked violent enough to be like, okay, he's never had any concussion issues whatsoever. That could send him to the hospital. They absolutely might have had some sort of connection, and it didn't help. Sunday to Thursday,
right?
Turn right around, and a similar type whiplash hit, and so it was bad. It was really I'd never seen that on a field, and I want to see it again.
Well, wasn't it Parham that had the same?
Yeah,
fencing?
it was similar. It wasn't the fingers,
he was
but it
the
was
shivering.
That,
because it was
cold.
68 degrees there.
It's cold. And somebody tweeted out and was like, "Well, at least they're not talking about how cold it is there."
One thing that Jeff Allen tweeted out this morning, kind of along those lines of it, you want to assume that the independent neurologist has the correct information, but what Jeff Allen said, former longtime player, said he exhibited symptoms on the field of play, and that's all the team needed, in my opinion, to shut him down. And that, I think...
Talk about Sunday?
Yes, the first time through. Right, you could go through and see back and all that other stuff. When you come up and you're grabbing your head and shaking out the cobwebs and everything, if you're operating from a perspective of the player's safety and not the game's functionality, if your friend fell over, hit his head on the ground, and then walked up shaking his head, you hopefully wouldn't be trying to, get to laser tag immediately with them and keep the night going.
Well, and remember here, too, this is a rule to save the players from themselves because the union barking back is one thing, but I bet 90+% of the players want to get back out there. My brain be damned.
Well, and I think what Jeff Allen is saying is part of the no-go, the no return to play, is one, loss of consciousness, but it's also gross motor instability, which when you're wobbly and you can't really pick yourself up, it's kind of the gross motor instability. So I think that's where most people were like, come on, he might have had a back, but that's an immediate no-go in the return to play protocol. We played a clip earlier from Chris Canty, who won a Super Bowl with the Giants with Steve Spagnuolo's defense, played until 2015. He said he knows of other players that would deliberately fail the baseline concussion test, so it made it easier if they were concussed to pass that same test. That doesn't surprise me really at all. It's crazy, but not really surprising.
Hello, this is John Barnes.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I went to BYU, so every down's a throwing down. I mean, that's how that goes.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, The Zone. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. He is presented by Kona Big Wave. Take a little break and single task tonight with a Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing Company. Can also hang out tonight at the Pork Radio 810.
Excuse you?
Disappointed that I won't be hanging out at the American Royal tonight with the 810 tent.
What's
we're
that
planning
smell?
on it.
Pork chops.
Pork
went bad.
Pork is the
you seen
smell.
that yet?
No.
Dahmer.
Oh no, I have not seen Dahmer. I don't
What's
think
that smell?
I don't think I'm
Pork
going to watch
chops.
it. I don't think I'm going to watch it.
I don't.
A lot of people talk about how dark it is.
Oh,
and
it's cringy.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
it's uncomfortable.
I'm not sure I'm in the mood to watch something as dark as that. I'll just go ahead and realize and remember that
of course
he was a
dark. He's one of the more notorious serial killers of our time.
I know, but I wanted it to be like whimsical.
Did you?
Just fun and fabulous
I
and
too was
whimsical.
surprised it wasn't a musical. I was shocked.
It's very serious, turns out. I just was really shocked. Thought we were going to do like a Hamilton thing, but nope, not the case. But the Sports Radio 810 WHB, proud to once again be the official media partner of the American Royal World Series of Barbecue at Kansas Speedway, one of Kansas City's premier charity events, the largest barbecue contest in the world. And a special thanks to the great partners for supporting Pork Radio 810, including Hollywood Casino, Parisi Coffee, Allstate, Greengrass Cattle Company, AmeriLife Benefits, Boulevard Brewing Company, and Hen House. But Little Man's got a makeup baseball game tonight, so we will be heading there and not enjoying all of the great barbecue at the American Royal. I love it. Love it. That's all right.
So good.
What are you going to do? Maybe we'll just eat some barbecue tonight.
Such a great time. It's such like...
You know what? If somebody's on their way out there right now with their barbecue, if you want to stop in real quick and let us taste test it, I will gladly give you a quick little blind taste test as to what I think about
Strangers
the barbecue.
Bring in your meat.
That's
Pretty
exactly
sure
right.
it's gonna be some raw stranger meat too. Like if they're smoking it out there.
I'm just saying, like if they had already done it, maybe, and then maybe they
trial run maybe this week. Absolutely.
They got
the temperatures
a
right.
sample or something.
No, I'm not even talking about.
If you're on your way out, I just think they swing by, they can bring in just like a raw brisket for you to gnaw on a little bit, say it's delicious, then throw it back in the truck.
I wouldn't want that.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear before people start showing up at our door with raw meat for us.
I'm also not saying like the championship bar. Just anybody heading out there. You know, if you're heading out there and you're like, oh, you know what?
If
somebody
anybody
taste
has
some
cooked barbecue in your car and you're
That's right.
near Union Broadcasting,
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Come on by and ask for beards.
Thank you, Josh. That's all I was saying, but not that specific. I didn't want to act like we were just making a call for somebody to go and bring it.
Have we talked about the food we did actually have today that was delicious and wonderful?
Nick and Jake's dropped off some amazing food.
Cooked food.
It was cooked. It
Ready
was
to
not
eat.
raw brisket.
Delicious.
It was Mama's meatloaf, mashed potatoes, the sweet corn. The mashed potatoes were freaking amazing. The meatloaf is awesome.
Is it gone? Can I have some?
It should
Once
be back
Andy
there. There's
starts
only
talking.
like 4 people here.
Yeah, the building's pretty empty today, so I think it should be good.
Yeah, I'm thinking about taking some of those mashed potatoes home, and I mean by like some of them, I mean what's ever left over there, because it was a huge tin full of mashed potatoes, because those things were awesome.
I actually currently right now my hoodie pocket is just full with loose mashed potatoes, which is why my hands in them right now. So every once in a while, I'll just pull out a hand, just get a little taste mid segment. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's like the tater tots, like on
exactly. It's a much messier version of Napoleon Dynamite.
I've seen that movie.
I
Good
have.
for you.
I have.
You can eat your meatloaf.
God, there was meatloaf reference. Then
You
also
totally drink whole milk.
we were talking. I can't remember.
Just use one of the nurses' chapsticks. She's like 15 in her drawer.
That's a good impression.
It's a pretty good impression.
But
What we
Nick
figured
and
out a couple
Jake's.
days ago is that it's also basically a Rudy Salazar impression.
Really?
Is basically you getting kind of the same register. Hey guys, what's going
Napoleon
on?
is Rudy.
Napoleon Dynamite and Rudy really have that impression has a lot of similar wavelengths. Anyway, go back to talking about the great potato products we got from Nick and Jake's. It was really
It's so good. The meatloaf was amazing.
Just
That's kind of a
happy to
kip.
Eat it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a kip
Meatloaf was
impression.
amazing.
Had a nice time eating Nick and Jake's.
By the way,
during a break.
that impression,
Matt Derrick took some with him.
the the Kelsey podcast. I do enjoy it. It's good.
How long are
it's like an hour and 20.
Episode, okay. Just wonder how long it's going to be before he starts calling it what its actual name is.
I know it's called New Heights.
There you go.
They were talking about
Heights,
they were talking about they ever had a Ken Dorsey reaction in their life, and Jason was like, yeah, remember you threw the controller, you reset the game, and then you ran to the bathroom and locked the door. Travis was like, what are you talking about? Why would I lock the door? What are you talking? So they're arguing over whether this actually happened, and he was like, you went into the bathroom, I couldn't get in. He goes, I did that once when I thought my life was in danger. He's like, when you were chasing me through the house, remember, because Dad didn't let you go outside? And I went, Jason's a big boy and he can't go outside with his friends. Ooh, Jason, look at the big boy's in trouble. He can't go outside. And apparently then Jason chased him through the house and he ran to the bathroom and locked the door. I get you to see Kelsey. Jason's a big boy. He can't go outside with his friends, Jason.
This impression's really challenging for a lot of. I'm here for it. I love this. This is great,
dude. You gotta watch. I mean, you watched the podcast. Did you see that part of it when they were talking about?
I listened to the whole thing, but I listened to podcasts on double speed, so I don't think that impression had the same impact on me as you're doing it now.
Because I could absolutely see him doing that, man. It's great. Because they're brothers. And he was going to murder Travis because he couldn't go out with his friends. And he ran to the bathroom and locked the door to stay in the bathroom.
I love the story about him putting Travis through the floor, putting a hole in the floor, and then moving a couch over it.
They slid the couch over.
Nobody would see it.
They even fixed the hardwood floor. They just moved the couch as a family. That is so perfect. So perfect. All that to say, Nick and Jake's. Some awesome meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Sweet corn and stuff I will be taking with me when I leave.
The gravy was really good. You a gravy guy?
I do like the gravy.
Love some gravy.
I like the gravy on the meatloaf.
Yep.
And then the mashed potatoes didn't even need the gravy. That's the thing, is I used the gravy for
brown
the meatloaf.
or cream gravy?
It was brown.
Brown gravy. I like both gravies. This is my.
I do too. Cream's my number one though.
For a long time I was a brown gravy guy, and then I got my adult taste buds in and really figured out that white gravy is, if not superior, deserves to be in the same conversation. Today's the best brown gravy I've had in a while, though.
Okay. So you have more of an advanced palate, is that what you're saying now?
I'm just saying that my horizons are open.
My palate refined to a more creamy gravy.
To accept cream. No, I would say my palate was refined to appreciate both, perhaps equally.
Okay. Yeah.
Nick and Jake's.
And now you have a nice brandy.
That's right. That's right. I also will just actually pour a little bit of brandy on my mashed potatoes sometimes just to mix it up. That one I would not do.
At some point, we're going to hear from Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. And I want somebody to ask Travis Kelce in that.
Do that impression.
Travis is a big boy. Travis, you dropped the touchdown. Look at big boy dropping touchdowns.
The reporter runs and locks himself inside the bathroom at the practice facility.
And Frank Clark's going to talk today too. So
good sound then, Kelce and Clark.
That's right.
Good sound.
You're
good
right
reaction.
About that. You were right about that. And by the way, Frank Clark's been playing well.
Yeah.
He was good against the Colts. A rejuvenated Frank Clark does a lot for this defense.
Skinny Frank,
that's right.
We call him on the block.
That's right. So, is that what you guys call him?
Out in Western Shawnee.
What's he, running numbers for the local mob? Skinny Frank's over here.
Skinny Frank's over here.
You don't want to mess around, man. Skinny Frank's going to come see you. You're going to be swimming with the fishes.
Don't want to mess around.
That right guard, effed around and found out with Frank Clark on the Matt Ryan sack that Frank Clark got in the game when he just tossed the guy to the ground, just pushed him to the ground. The guy fell backwards on his ass. All right, here's Andy Reid.
But did not practice today, and then Kendo is sick. So, and then we'll see how Bucker does going down here the road. Everybody else went out to practice. Ronald Jones was back after being sick. Look forward to the challenge of playing the Bucs. Good football team. Well coached. I mean, Todd does a heck of a job, and not only working with the defense, but also as a head coach. So, time's yours with him. Yeah, we'll just see how he does here.
The plan is to have him kick before the game. Some of that pregame.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Herbie,
you mentioned Todd in Tampa. Did they look any different, really? Has he just kind of kept it rolling? Has he put his fingerprints on that team yet?
Well, I think, he put his fingerprints on it before that. So, obviously with that defense. So, I've been around him, and I've mentioned before, he's one of the best interviews I've ever had. And, I think he's a heck of a football coach, so I'm sure he's put his mark on that team. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, it's Fast Friday with Andy Reid. That is traditional Fast Friday. Typically, Andy Reid on the field after a practice, walking off the field, will be talking for about 2 minutes. But Butker, no practice today. Ronald Jones is back. He has been sick the last couple of days, but Ronald Jones back. Maybe that is a chance that they go with Ronald Jones active on Sunday. That would be great.
And Joshua Kando ill. He did not practice. So
he said Kando.
Yeah, well,
and he said Butt did not practice today.
That's a great point.
Butt did not practice, and Kando. Here is Frank Clark, we believe.
A long time. The last one, I wonder just what you saw in yourself when you went back to the film.
Someone that needs to continue to improve, just continue to get better day in and day out. I don't never look at things. It's still early in the season. I never look at it and I don't look at myself and evaluate myself. Just early on and say, what can I do better? What I'm doing great. You know what I mean? It's all like one of those head down things. We took a loss last week, so of course I'm being more critical on myself than the normal person would when you win, but. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? You can sit back all day and tell yourself how good you are at certain things, but people don't want to look at themselves in the mirror and say what they need to work on. So it's still improvement, all around. I feel like I need to do so I can help my team win the game.
Speaking about the line as a whole, how much better do you guys feel maybe as a unit this year than you did maybe toward the end of last year?
I feel like we feel real good. When you look at it, guys are playing well together. We're meshing well. It's a newer group. We're missing a few other guys from the last 4 years where I've been here. But it's a good group. We got our rookie, George. He's filling in, doing his job, just trying to figure it out. Like I said before, when you're a rookie coming in, the league, it's a mystery to you. Every player, the players, the conference, you don't really understand that. So you're trying to grasp all of those things. So, hats off to him for continuing to show up to work and, put forth his best effort. And as a whole, we just going to continue to improve. I feel like we're showing some spurts of, a team that wants to stop the run. I feel like, past 2 games, really, we've shown that, we really want to rush that pass when we get the opportunity. You got guys. It's great watching Carlos, on his road to 100 sacks. Watching Chris break 50, watching, our interior guys step up. You got Colin Saunders. Has one of the guys we don't really talk about a lot, but underdog. He had one of his best games, probably his best game of his career last week. And like I said, we lost, so a lot of that goes under the rug, and it gets swept under the rug how good some of these guys have played. But him, along with some of our young DBs, 3-5, he's continued to impress. And some, the guys in the back end. Nobody's not talking about how good Juan's been playing. And filling in for the role, in the secondary with Tyron being gone. So it's a lot of good things happening. But like I said, it's still early. So it's nothing to talk about right now. Kind of got our heads down, chopping wood still,
Frank, it seemed like a couple of things you did Sunday, it really showed sort of an extra tier of strengths, and maybe it was leverage, but I mean, are you feeling a different sense of strength and ability to drive people back?
Yeah, I just always play with, like you said, it's not really, I don't believe in this whole strength thing. The strongest player on the field wins. It's always technique. I've always, prided myself on being technical with a lot of things. Of course, in football, when you get injured, you deal with certain injuries, it's going to limit certain things. So, over the course of a few years, of course, I can't do certain things because, fuck, hurt my elbow or hurt my arm, or it's like, this pinched nerve is bothering me, so I can't extend like I want to. But, of course, that goes away, years of work. That's why I have the off season. That's why I got, a great medical staff here. I have a great, team outside of work who works on my body and get me back to, prime physique. So strength, I wouldn't call it that. I call it technique. Just doing what my coaches coach me to do, and just getting back, playing greedy, getting greedy.
Technique and really health in a way maybe you haven't fully felt for a couple of years.
Yeah, feel good, man. I'm running, legs feel good. My head's in the right place, and I'm having fun. Just wish we would have got the win, but that happens. Shit, you're gonna lose in football, bro.
Frank, you've had your moments with Tom Brady in the past. It seems like every time you guys are playing, it's like could last time. I just wonder for you, just how you want to approach Tom this time, given all those previous experiences for this game.
Yeah, I know. It seems like every time we about to play this man, it's like, yeah, it could be the last time you play him, you know? It's like 4 years later, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this dude never seems to amaze me. He has this whole big thing. He's like leaving football. It's like everybody shouting him out. Then it's like, yeah, I'm coming back. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, come on, you know, give somebody else a chance. But no, for real, man, you know, hats off to Tom. He's still doing it. 45, I believe, 44 years old. He's still doing it, man. I can only imagine what his kids and his wife is thinking right now. Like, you know, just, but, man, I've been playing him for a minute now. You know, it dates back to Seattle. But just being here, you know, it's kind of one of those games. Me and Chris was talking about it earlier in the week, you know, where going back to when we lost to him in the Super Bowl, you know what I mean? It kind of put a sour taste in our mouth from that point. And I believe it's the first time we'll get to see him since then. So, you know, it's a lot of things that we want to do this time around to execute and go ahead and get the job done. Although we know it's not the Super Bowl, you know, we 2 years removed from that. It's about execution. You know, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. It's still only Friday. You know, we got 2 days to game time and the whole day to wait to the night. But you playing arguably, you know, the best quarterback to play this game. You know, one of the best players to play this game ever. So everything defensively, you know, we got to be on key. He's going to understand every check. He's going to understand every coverage. He's going to understand every blitz. If you show as a linebacker, if you show as a DB coming on the edge, he's going to understand. He's going to check with his tackles, cut the end off. If you're an end and you show that you're dropping in coverage, he's going to understand that he might check to a run. It's going to be a lot of that, you know, going on. So it's going to be one of those technical games where, you know, keys are important. You know, paying attention to the man in front of you, key in the hip. And, you know, playing, you know, technically sound, you know, hands and eyes and feet. If you do those things, you know, you got to trust your ability to get the job done.
Frank, what did Chris say to get that penalty the other day?
Man, you know, I'm riding with my dogs right or wrong. You know, I got to ride with my dogs right or wrong, man. I don't really know what he said. If you remember the play, if you're watching me, I was like looking, then I like turned away, ran off, then turned back around, and I'm like, it's a flag on the ground. You know what I mean? And then, of course, it is what it is. But it was one of those things where it's like, dang, man, I know myself. If y'all know me, you know, I say a lot of crazy stuff out there. I got a terrible mouth. You know, refs, they warned me a lot. This year they've been warning me a lot. They haven't threw the flag yet. So, you know, I pray to God it doesn't happen to me, if you know what I mean. But I'm thankful, man. You know, look, man, it's been a rough year for Frank for the last two. I've been on this streak of doing the right thing and just staying out the way. You know, so I knocked on the wood because I don't want it to come down on me. You know, I don't want these refs to switch sides and, you know, all of a sudden throw the flag on me. But you know how it is, man. Guys getting the emotions of the game, and the game is running, and you know, it was one of those close games, man. We playing a good quarterback and Matt Ryan, and, you know, he's driving down. You know, he's making all the right plays. Their team is making the right plays, and, you know, it's a moment of frustration. We've all been there.
Is it important to know what that line is, though? Because I was talking to Chris yesterday, and he didn't quite have clarity yet on exactly what you can and can't say. You obviously have been warned a few times. Do you know what the line is?
Yeah, I know what the line is. You know, I mean, and I honestly, everyone's different. You know, Chris, this might be the first one he's gotten. I mean, Chris usually go get a personal foul for hitting the quarterback or something like that, not for, you know, talking. But you know, you got to understand the line. You know what league we in today. It's 2022. It's not 2020. It's not 2015 no more. It's not the 90s. You can't run around calling nobody nothing. You can't call them the B word, the A word, the S word. You can barely say, you know what I mean? You can barely say hell on the field nowadays without the ref telling you you're wrong. But you know, you just gotta go out there and play a solid, fundamental Christian-like game. Protect yourself too, you know, because it's still live bullets out there, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's crazy, man. You got to know the lineup. You got to know the limit. You got to know this is a billion-dollar industry. We're professionals at the end of the day, and we have a job to do, you know. And first is, you know, protecting the integrity of the team and the locker room in our profession. But then again, it's playing it safe and, you know, a fair game, and, you know, keeping it safe in a nice environment for everybody. You know what I mean?
You talk about getting those warnings from the referees before they penalize you. Was Chris warned? Do you know?
Nah, he wasn't warned at all. No, I can say that he wasn't warned at all. It was one of those things where the ref, you can tell as you seen the ref, he like ran up. It was the ref, it was Chris, and it was Matt. That's all. And you can tell when the moment the ref ran up and he heard whatever Chris said, he reached for the flag and threw it. It wasn't a second thought about it. You know what I mean? It was the ref knows what Chris said, and Chris knows, and Matt knows. So that's all that matters. You know, we got to get with Matt. I'm gonna get with Matt and see. Matty Ice. So I gotta holler at him.
Even if you're not willing to share, do you know what he said though?
Man, you know, man, look, man. Am I surprised? I'm surprised it was a flag because it's like, man, come on, bro. In our sport, it's all type of stuff said. Most guys are talking because you're talking trash. That's the actual thing in football. You can talk trash. You're supposed to be allowed to talk trash. But I mean, like you said, but at some point, if you do cross the line, you got to be able to be a stand-up guy about it, accept, what's going on, whether it's a penalty, whether you lost the game. Nah, we all lost the damn game. You know what I mean? We understand that. So once you understand that, you know what I mean, everything's going to be fine. But yeah, Chris, my guy, we talk about a lot of things, but, I'm not going to be the one to sit here and say I know what he said. I'm not going to be the one to sit here and say I don't know. But I know one thing for sure. I know one thing for sure. We'll never know.
Let's do last two.
We'll never know.
Frank, you mentioned the line, okay, and you mentioned you received warnings. How much do you think that there was a quarterback involved that kind of like tightened up the line of what you can and can't say?
You said the quarterback?
Yeah, because there's a quarterback involved in this.
Well, the thing about these quarterbacks, you're asking the guy who's kind of biased about this one, but the thing about these quarterbacks, they tend to do things. They're kind of like that little brother, or sister. You're not doing nothing as the big bro or whatever, and then they come in and they like, yeah. When your parents come around, they get louder. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're bothering me. You know what I mean? But then when they're away, it's like, yeah, F you. You know what I mean? It's one of those type of things going on with the quarterbacks. It's usually one of those. They kind of sneaky. They slide. They kind of, are the trophy child of the family. So, people don't usually look at them as the ones that's doing bad and stuff, But, these quarterbacks are something else. You got to watch them. Yeah, a lot of them. A lot of them.
So to pivot a little bit here, you and George have had a special relationship since training camp. What have you learned about George over these past couple months?
I honestly have learned how great of a guy he is. You know what I mean? Some of these guys that come in, you don't pick their brain. You spend all year sometimes picking their brain. You never know where they are. You don't understand what type of player they are, their life at home. Where they come from, why they even want to play football. What's really your goal in this? And George has done nothing but, show why he wants to do this, show why, this is important to him. He loves football. I always play with him. I was like, man, dang, dude, you're going to run into a wall watching film, bro. Like, he's walking around the building with his head down all the time, because he just wants to get better. And, it reminds me of me. When I'm younger, I'm coming in, I got, 6 dudes, you know what I mean, all pro. I'm like, wow, and I'm studying everything they doing. And it's something to pick up off each one. And, you can tell he's doing that. 1 second he's in my ear bothering me to death, and it's like, dude, go on. You know what I mean? I'm ready to go home now. You know what I mean? I've been here all day. He's still asking me football questions. It's 8 at night. And but then, it's dope because I've never had that. I mentioned that before. For the first time, this is the first time my career has been like that. I've never had a rookie challenge me as a veteran or as an older guy and ask me the hard questions and ask me yo, what's up, bro? How did you do this to get better? Stuff I'm thinking damn, I ain't have to answer this. So it's I got to really formulate an answer for this and really think about, and stuff. But I thank him for that because I would have never experienced it if I didn't have him come in, the type of person he is, how eager he is to learn, how eager he is to get better. And I would have never experienced that. So, that's how I feel about my guy.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Appreciate y'all, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right, there's Frank Clark, leader in the clubhouse of the best press conference so far this year.
I'm going to leave. I can't top that. It's
Neither
just
can
gonna be
Kelce.
Downhill
Neither can
with
Kelce.
Even Travis Kelce, and especially me.
That was as entertaining of a press conference as I think I may have ever heard. And apparently the dump button wasn't working when it was pressed.
Oh, it wasn't?
Apparently not. Apparently it was not working. But so those listening got the full Frank Clark.
Full Monty there. So
yeah, and it was wildly entertaining.
At least for almost all but 1 or 2 of the words, he said just the first letter of those cuss words.
Yeah.
But then a couple slipped out.
Yeah. And apparently he's not going to say if he knows or doesn't know what Chris Jones said. He does know there's a line. He knows where the line is. Typically, they get warnings. Chris Jones was not warned. Frank Clark has been warned a lot this year.
What kind of mouth
so
did he say he had?
Terrible. Terrible
mouth.
Which was evidenced by 30 seconds before that, in which the dump button did not work with Frank Clark. But he also said you got to play a certain specific type of game.
Yeah, I don't remember what he said about that, but I'm just trying to play a nice, sound, fundamental Christian-like show today. I just think that's really important that we keep that standard upheld.
A good, clean, sound, fundamental Christian-like game.
Sound, fundamental Christian-like game.
Yeah, you gotta play that way to not get a flag. And then talking about the quarterbacks, they're like, oh, hey, he's bothering me. Then the ref goes away.
Child.
F you. Yeah, you see what we did on that play? Oh, man, that was really entertaining from Frank Clark. And we'll find out eventually. I like that he got asked twice. What did he say?
Because Adam was feeling out the energy in the room. He thought he'd swoop back in again.
Adam started it with the, hey, what did Chris Jones say? And then, as you said, it got jovial, fun. Chris Jones was laughing, and then Sam McDowell. So what did he say? Did you catch him off guard? Oh, he said, whoa, hey, you almost got me there.
This might not come through, but that was a team effort there from the reporters.
It was. I think it was Teicher at the end that said, we're going to get it out of you.
You'll never know
how I'm going to get you betting.
I'm going to get you to bet. I'll give you 10 to 1 odds.
I don't know how.
Okay, all right, I got you. Yeah, we'll see if Kelsey can come close to that from Frank Clark, and it is a rejuvenated Frank Clark.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's different hearing Frank Clark at the podium when people are like, oh, this overpaid waste of money that this guy's playing. Like, who cares about what Frank Clark has? How about this, Frank? Stop talking and go play football. This year, it's like Frank Clark entertaining, also playing good football, and it makes his press conferences a little more fun, a little more enjoyable when he's getting sacks and pressures and stopping and setting the edge and stopping the run and doing things that he's supposed to be doing, that he's getting paid to be doing. Oddly enough, getting paid half this year than what he got last year and playing twice as better. Twice as good.
Is it half?
What, he got like 26, 27 against the cap, and he's 13 this year?
Yep.
Around that?
Wow.
Yeah, it's still a lot of money.
But he's twice as good playing like that as he did a year ago. So he's a big difference maker for this team if he can play to that level, because they've done a lot in spite of him being on the field. And now they're performing well, and he's part of the reason why they're doing that. So
I'm taking your word for it on the Colts game in particular. It wasn't a electric start to the season for Frank Clark, but I think that's going to be the story of his year as a player, which is again a lot easier to swallow as a lower cap hit. Yeah. Hey man, have a big game one every 3 weeks and be good in the run game and don't be a liability the other weeks. You'll take that from Frank Clark at this point.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's kind of damning with faint praise.
Yeah.
To win, it's like he's had a really good year this year because he played well against the Colts compared to last year when it was like he's just awful. It's just not good. Has one good game, you're like, I feel like he's been awesome this year, right? I mean, how much better is Frank Clark playing this year because he was really good against the Colts? But was there a game last year when you went, boy, Frank Clark was really good in that game?
It was almost like Beards damning you with faint praise when you broke early.
Yeah,
today.
That's true.
That's right. Yeah, that
really
was
true.
Wow, you broke early. You know what? Never again. If I'm going to get criticized, if I'm going to get made fun of for breaking early, you know what? You just lost the break early privilege. You know, you had it. You gave it away.
And see, Beards, here's where you've really stepped in it, because this was always Jason's plan. It's let me do it once, let me see if I get proper praise for it, and if not, I'll never do it again, so I can try to continue to find the support that I need to continue ignoring the clocks around here. This is your fault, Beards.
I mean, to be completely honest, I'm the one that controls when we go to break, so I can just decide whenever we want to, if I really want to.
Well, then I need you to start exercising that privilege more liberally. Yeah. Hey, you got the timeouts in your pocket? You don't wait for your quarterback to call for one. You just do it yourself, then that's fine. I'm here for that as well.
Grain of salt, PFF grades, great assault. He graded out his best this year against the Chargers overall, and his best pass rushing was against the Chargers this year. His best run defense was against the Colts this year. But it's also grading out as like his pass rush against the Colts was a 55. I thought he was pretty good in the game. I thought there were a number of pressures there. He did get a sack in which he just destroyed the right guard. I thought he played well, and he got a 70 pass rush against the Chargers,
Well,
which
and
I thought he was fine in that game too.
We talked a lot leading up to the week about how difficult it was, how bad the Colts had looked against twists and stunts. I mean, that sack you're talking about there. If I can't visualize the play at the moment, but if he was going through the guard, imagine he had to make a little bit of movement.
Well, it was pre-snap. He and Turk switched pre-snap.
Interesting. Okay, so you make the Colts communicate on something they weren't expecting right before the snap.
Right. So and it left it 1-on-1 with him and the right guard, and he just knocked him on his ass and went and sacked.
And that's the thing that you're asking for here, and this is the difference between him being a guy you trade a first-round pick and give $100 million to a veteran number 3 rotational defensive end. He gives you one memorable sack a game, pressures the court. Maybe you get a hit and a sack every once in a while. You'll take that game, no question. In the first 2 weeks of the season, he had one combined quarterback hit.
Yeah.
He wasn't exactly living in the backfield. But you can make big impacts in small sample sizes as a pass rusher, and I would rather have Frank Clark do that once every couple of weeks than to be a run stuffer 17 games in a row. You know what I mean?
Well, and that because that one play gets you off the field. Because that was a first down sack. It was 1st and 10. He sacked him. 2nd and 18. They punt 2 plays later. So that was a drive ender, especially with that offense. Drive ender. You get that sack. You get pressure, and he throws the ball away. It's 2nd and 10. Maybe they extend the drive. You got there, you sacked him. Okay, so they are...
Frank Clark's presser was so good that Travis Kelce actually got self-conscious about his public speaking abilities, which is weird. But
he doesn't want to follow that.
We may or may not have Travis Kelce at the podium today. We'll see.
We'll see. If not, we got our fill of entertainment with press conferences. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will maybe hear from Travis Kelce. We get our predictions for the Bucs game. We'll get what's on tap and still the cuts still to come right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's The Zone.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Here we are standing today. Excuse my language. We're a couple of days away from kickoff. Man, that slipped.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll see if we get Travis Kelce today. If not, no big deal. No big deal. 913-912-4810, the text line. Thank you to Kendall Gammon joining us earlier in the show. Matt Derrick as well. So let's go through and give our predictions, what we think is going to happen on Sunday. Because now you got to actually...
I don't know, Jason.
I know. We've been putting it off.
I don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. This is dumb.
Well, predict it.
I'll tell you on Monday.
Why don't we do that more often?
That's a great point.
Why don't we just say, you know what we told you on Friday? What we'd be saying on Monday is what we're telling you about Friday. So just listen into Monday. Boy, that's a tease. What do you think is going to happen in the Chiefs game? I'll tell you on Monday.
I've been asking
Programs up next.
I've been asking DraftKings to do the exact same thing. Why can't I place my bet for the Chiefs game on Monday?
I just need to get that sports almanac given to me back in the future. You know, the future. That would be great.
Seen that movie?
Make a lot of money. I'm sure you have it.
I have seen the first one.
All right, so who wants to go first with their
the sports
breakdown?
almanac wasn't in the first one.
Oh, okay.
You didn't enjoy Back to the Future?
That was weird.
Yeah, time travel. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't like time travel.
I didn't want to
movies.
suspend reality, but have you seen the new Marvel movie? It's so good.
Yes, exactly. But Pokemon, man.
So good.
It was fun. No, and Pokemon and Marvel, no point did they ever go back in time and almost get bleeped by their mom.
Marvel
Well,
always
he didn't
goes back in
almost.
time.
He got hit on by his mom, but he knew it was his mom. Therefore, he did not reciprocate.
What a hero.
the
Act on
offering. Yeah. So he had to save the picture. He didn't want everything to disappear. So I've been pretty pessimistic about the game this week just because I didn't have a feel for it and worrying about the injuries and health for the Bucs, who they would get back. Donovan Smith, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones were all limited. They are all game time decisions, is what Todd Bowles said today. Bashad Perriman, the other wide receiver, is not going to play on Sunday. He hasn't been practicing this week, so they do get Mike Evans back. That will help. But some of the numbers that I looked up or found last night and talked about earlier in the show as to why maybe there's a little more optimism from me. The explosive play rate, the Chiefs are second in the NFL. The Bucs are 28th offensively. Early down success, Chiefs are the third most successful expected points added early downs. Tampa Bay's the 23rd best team offensively. Yards per play, the Chiefs are 7th. Tampa Bay's 25th. Perfect pass block rate, the Chiefs are 15th. The Bucs are 31st. And while the Bucs defense grades out well, the offenses they've gone up against are ranked 14th, 25th, and 31st in the NFL. So maybe there is a little bit opponent-driven to how good the Bucs defense has been, but we also know the Bucs defense is just good. It's just good. So I'm not going to dismiss the Bucs are opponent-driven. Like it was the Patriots defense in 2019 when the Patriots were going through the season undefeated, and the defense was just unbelievable. Is this the greatest defense ever? And they were playing like, a bunch of backup quarterbacks and everything. That's not this Bucs defense. I think they're legit, but I think their offense has some real issues even if they get Mike Evans back. If they get Godwin and Julio Jones and Donovan Smith, it could be a difference. But I'm going to guess that not all three of those guys play. I'm going to go Chiefs 24-17. Low-scoring game. What's the over-under on this game? Because that would be 41. Does that hit the over?
I wanted to say like 42.5 or something. That's a total just pull out of thin air. I'll let you know in a second.
It's one of the lowest totals of Patrick Mahomes' career.
Well, he's going up. He's going against kind of a bum quarterback across from him. So
that's right. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, and then last week Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers had some really
46.
crazy low over-unders.
46. I'm taking the under on 46. 24-17 is my score. Mick, Josh, Beards, who's next?
Mick will go 21-20. I'm not going to assume any Chiefs field goals in this game. I should probably take off a PAT, but I'm not
that's
going
3
to.
touchdowns, 3 2-point conversions for me.
Is that it?
24
Okay,
points,
okay.
yes. No, it's a no-kick game. Justin Reed kicks off.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm going to do 21-20. I think it's a pick-em game. I don't like that the Chiefs lost last week. I do like it going into this week. I don't see them losing twice in a row. I think the travel and the hurricane issues can't help but affect Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
They have been putrid on offense. I expect them to get a little bit right against the Chiefs defense. That's how it always goes, no matter how good they're playing. So I'm going to go 21-20. Chiefs eke one out. And I will have taken the Chiefs' money line.
Okay. Which is the exact same odds as the Chiefs getting a point.
Free tip right now, don't do that. Just get the point. It's the exact same odds. Take the Chiefs +1.
Just in case they lose 21-20, you get your money back.
Yep. Yeah.
Or if they lose by a half point, you win.
Yeah. Or
if it's a tie,
you win.
You win, yeah. So go do that. All right, Josh.
I'm just going 2017. I am on that absolute same boat of like maybe there's a failed PAT in there. I don't know if it's going for 2, if it's kicking it, whatever it is. But I think there's going to be weirdness. I think both of these defenses are better than both of these offenses right now, which I know is a wild thing to say about a team with Tom Brady and a team with Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But I think that's legitimately true at this moment. My biggest fear for the Chiefs is that eventually this is the team that exploits the fact that they're missing 3 defensive starters.
Here's Kelsey.
Oh.
Up there in Indianapolis. How important is it to get that bad taste out of your mouth and maybe get off to a good start this time?
Honestly, I haven't thought about it since Monday, brother. It's in the past now. You learn from it. You know what you got to clean up, and you just approach this week like we have. With the attention to detail, the focus, the effort, showing guys around you that it matters to you and that we're going to get this thing fixed. And sure enough, that's what we did.
Have you seen those kind of good things this week as you
1,000%. Yeah, it's been a good week.
Why was it important to you to put out that tweet about that play?
I mean, that's why we have a platform. That's why we have that, social media to use our advantage. And I mean, I was disappointed in myself. That I'm sure you could sense that from the tweet. It's just I put a lot into how much I care about what I put out there on the field. I think about this thing 24/7, 365. So it's just I put a lot of pride on myself to be able to make those plays, and sure enough, I got confident I'll make the next one.
Travis, you talk about how that it was a good week of practice. In your experience, does that usually translate to Sundays?
1,000%, every single time.
Travis, when you come out of that, not to harp on it too much, but do you find yourself thinking more about that than things you did well in that game? I mean, is that the thing that sticks with you?
Every single film session I go into, I think of what did I do wrong, whether we win or lose. I got to keep fixing and keep raising the ceiling for me personally so that I can be accountable for everybody else.
Travis, Frank was in here before you came in, and he was talking about trash talking as part of football.
Yeah.
But then he also mentioned that every now and then he will get warned before he crosses a line. In your experience, how often have you been warned before crossing a line, or you got close to it?
I've always just crossed it. So I learned not to cross it.
Has that line moved since you came in the league? It seems like
1,000%.
Is that good or bad?
I mean, the league's trying to do something, make it I'm not going to comment too much on that. The league's trying to do the right thing. We're all trying to, make the game better. I don't think that necessarily makes it better. I think it, I just think that we, as overall, the league has to do a better job of managing situations like that, for sure. And relaying that to the refs. I'm not blaming the refs for anything. You know what I mean? Obviously, it comes from up top in the shield somewhere. So.
Well, it's different refs each game too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to know who's calling balls and strikes, as it were. When another league kind of thing. I don't know if you were watching last night. Tua got concussed. It looked like, and he was hurt in the game before. And the union has kind of stepped up about this. You're someone who's been concussed and not come back in a game. Where are we right now as a league between the players' union and the team, and what players want to do? How do you find that line about trusting everyone and doing the right thing?
It's a tough line to walk. It is, and I was you're referring to the 2017 Titans game when I got knocked out of the game. Went into halftime thinking that I was just fine. Wanted to go back out there, but obviously hope that Tua is doing okay now. But it's a scary scene. The last thing I would ever want is for my family and friends to see me have to get carted off a field like that after a head injury. I felt bad for him. There's a lot of morale that, sunk to the floor when we saw Tua go through that. So it's just, obviously, like I said, the league's trying to change this game for the better, trying to make it for the better. I know that at the end of the day, even though Titans came back and won the game that I got knocked out of, I still wish I could have been out there with my teammates. That's for damn sure.
That was before there was the independent person on the sidelines, right?
No,
So
that might have been the first couple of years of the first year.
Right.
But yeah.
And so you want to go back and play. What's it like for them to tell you you can't? When you're going through that.
Honestly, it was just a lot of frustration, man. Knowing I couldn't go back out there and help the team.
Travis, I'm sure your situations, you guys use the tight end so much. I just wonder, from your vantage point, what you and the rest of the tight ends can do. Better in those situations?
We got a really athletic group, physical group, and the two young guys. I can't even really call them young because they play like vets, man. They understand the game, they understand the offense, and they understand the intentions of the play caller and what Pat likes. It's a fun group to be a part of. Jody and Noah have been, progressing so much since they've been here. I get excited when I see those guys have success out there on the field. And anytime we can go 3 tight end sets, I think we got the advantage.
You obviously experienced the highest high winning the championship, but when you guys go back to Tampa, that was obviously the last place where you guys were in the Super Bowl. I just wonder what you can take from that game and how much of that can be maybe added motivation.
A lot of similar players. The defensive coordinator is the same, and we know that they're a great defense. That's you know that you're going to be in there for a dogfight, and what happened last time. So we got to start fast and finish even better.
Travis, and coming off games like that, typically when Patrick plays the same team that he did lose to in a game like that, he does really well. I'm wondering if you could sense something from him, even if you don't have to.
Just think the more reps that 1-5 gets, the better he gets. He's very calculated, but he also plays the game free. And that being said, he's doing his homework. He's trying to find out new ways to beat everybody, and especially when we aren't at our best. The following episode where we play a team again, he seems to be a little bit more on cue with what the defense is trying to do to stop him.
Okay, thanks, Travis.
Thanks, Travis. Thank you.
Sorry about.
Is there still talking? Is there a question?
I think he was saying sorry about the delay, probably.
I
don't know.
I was trying to get one more question there at the end there. So, all right, there's Travis Kelce. Josh, you got 2017 Chiefs. I went 24-17 Chiefs. Mick Shaffer went 21-20. Beards, before we get a what's on tap and a break, what do you got?
I'll go 3-2 Bucs.
3-2 Bucs.
Whoa!
Okay. 3-2 Bucs. Okay.
That might be the actual score.
I think there's a real good chance you win this week.
Could be.
I think you won last week, too.
The score. So we'll see what's on tap for the Chiefs game on Sunday. But we got a high school football game of the week coming up tonight right here on Sports Radio 810. Chiefs and Bucs Sunday, as we talked about, on Channel 41. Mick Shaffer will be heading there to Tampa tomorrow
6 a.m. flight, boys.
Hey, safe travels there, bud.
Thanks.
The Royals wrap up the season with a 6-game set against the Guardians.
That's so cool.
6-game series.
So cool.
Against the Guardians. Mizzou in action tomorrow. They are the last of the 3 local teams to play. 6:30 on SEC Network, KU 2:30 ESPN2 against Iowa State. That's right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB as well. And then K-State taking on Texas Tech. That gets the day started at 11 o'clock. That is on ESPN+. Sporting in action on Sunday, taking on Dallas. And the Current in action tomorrow at 6:30, taking on traveling to Racing Louisville. That is the What's on Tap. It is presented by Casey Beer Company. And with the fall being here, football, all of that stuff, special time deserves a special beer. So grab Kansas City's favorite lager, Dunkel, a rich, smooth, Munich-style brown lager. Go to kcbeer.com, kcbier.com, and discover all of their award-winning brands.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Enjoy the rest of the day off. Thank you,
I
sir.
won't, because I'm going home to my family.
What a great dad.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's get into the cuts. We got 10 minutes here?
Rip 'em off, Bears, rip some
Let's go. Cuts, just 10 minutes straight of the cuts.
Man, are we really not going to play any cuts over this?
This week.
Do you have any cuts?
Hang on.
What's your best one?
Were you surprised by that?
What's your best one? What's your gold medal winner?
Dip them in once, flip them over, dip them in again. I don't know.
Oh, a double dip.
I would double dip the baby. That's
I
a good
appreciate
one.
it. That's a good one. That is a good one.
We got time for one more?
Achilles died because his mom had manners and didn't double dip.
That's right.
This is really amazing. I haven't never seen one this long.
5 seconds, Bears, quick, one more. Bears!
No more.
No more.
No more?
Okay. It's a good one to end on.
All right.
Hey, thank you, Mick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
Safe
Thank
travels
you.
to Tampa.
Thank your mom.
Hey, my mom said that, they got a space for you, but you probably knew that already.
right.
Yeah, she'll be there.
We're
You can
hanging
swing by
out.
and go see her.
Absolutely. Your
That'd be
dad works
fun.
during the
I
day,
got to go
right?
home.
Well, game off the field, too.
Sport.